Hey guys, tonight we are stepping back in time. Not as a king, a knight, or a revolutionary, but into a role far more intimate and quietly heartbreaking. We're going to explore the world of the Renaissance sweat nurse. Your body, in this story, is both a miracle and a commodity, a source of life that society will turn into a terrible prison. It's a journey that reveals a secret tragedy hidden behind the opulent walls of the wealthy. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. I'd also love to see where you're tuning in from. So please drop your city and the current time in the comments below. It's always amazing to see how far these stories travel. Now, dim the lights. Maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum. And let's ease into tonight's journey together. The air in the small cottage is thick with the smells of earth, wood smoke, and sweat. It's a familiar scent, the perfume of your life. But today it's layered with something new, something metallic and sharp, and also something impossibly sweet. Like fresh milk and warm linen, your body is an aching map of the ordeal it's just been through. Every muscle protests, a dull, thrumming pain that serves as a constant reminder of the raw, primal power that just moved through you. You lie on a straw-stuffed mattress, the rough spun wool blanket a familiar scratch against your skin. Light, thin and grey, filters through the single, small window, illuminating dust motes dancing in the silence. For hours, the world was nothing but a storm of pain and effort, a universe contracting to the space between your own heartbeats. But now, the storm has passed, and in its wake, there is a profound, bone-deep stillness. And then, there's the small, warm weight on your chest. You look down, a tiny, wrinkled creature, swaddled tightly in a strip of old, but clean linen, rests against your heart. This is your child. Your own. The face is a miniature marvel of indignation and peace, scrunched up one moment, then smoothing out into a slack, milky slumber. A cap of fine, dark hair is plastered to the perfectly sloped head. You slowly, carefully, extend a finger and trace the delicate shell of an ear, the impossibly soft curve of a cheek. The baby stirs, a little puff of air escaping its rosebud mouth, and its own tiny, starfish hand clasps around your fingertip with surprising strength. A wave of something vast and overwhelming washes over you. It's not just relief, it's a fierce, protective joy so potent it almost hurts. In a world where so many first breaths are also the last, this quiet, steady rhythm of the baby's breathing against your chest is a miracle. You know the statistics without needing a scholar to tell you. You've seen it in your own village, in your own family. A fever, a bad cough, a summer sickness, so many tiny graves dot the churchyard, markers of fleeting lives. The joy of a live birth is always tempered by a quiet, gnawing fear. Your husband, his face etched with a weariness that matches your own, had placed a cold piece of iron above the doorway just after the birth. It's an old tradition, a simple charm against things unseen, the bad luck or mischievous spirits that were said to prey on new life. Some people hang bundles of herbs, others whisper certain prayers. It's a small act of defiance against a world full of dangers you can't control. You find comfort in these small rituals. They are a way of trying to build a fence, however flimsy, around this new, precious life. Centuries from now, historians will debate this very moment. They will argue, based on cold records and formal documents, that the constant shadow of death made hearts like yours colder, more guarded. That parents in your time couldn't afford the luxury of deep emotional investment in a child who might be gone by the next harvest. But, as you look down at this tiny, trusting face, at the miniature fingernails and the fluttering eyelids dreaming of a world they have yet to see, you know the truth is far simpler, and far more painful. It's not a lesser love, it's a love sharpened to a razor's edge by fear. It's a love that exists in the now, in this one perfect, quiet moment, because the future is a terrifying unknown. The midwife has gone. Your husband is outside, likely boiling water or just pacing, giving you this moment of peace. The world has shrunk to the size of this small, warm bundle. You pull the blanket up a little higher, cocooning the two of you together. You can feel the baby's instinctual movements, the little head turning, rooting for the source of its first meal. Your body, exhausted as it is already preparing its answer. In this quiet, dusty cottage, for this one brief, stolen period of time, everything is exactly as it should be. You are a mother, and this is your child. You close your eyes, letting the simple, profound truth of it all settle in your soul. There is no hint yet of the choice that is to come. There is only the here and now, a fragile peace, and the soft, warm weight of a new life against your own. The quiet is broken by a sharp rap on the cottage door. It's a sound that doesn't belong in this soft, new world you've built around yourself and the child. Your husband, who had been sitting quietly in the corner, mending a strap of leather, looks up, his expression a mixture of surprise and caution. Visitors are rare, and unexpected ones are often bearers of ill news or requests for something you don't have. He gets up, his large frame moving silently, and lifts the simple wooden latch. The woman standing in the doorway is Elara. She's a known figure in the village and the surrounding hamlets, a woman whose business is other people's business. She's neither old nor young, with a face that seems to have settled into a permanent expression of knowing appraisal. Her eyes, quick and sharp, take in the entire scene in a single glance. Your husband's warm clothes, the meager contents of the cottage, you on the mattress, and finally, the swaddled bundle on your chest. A faint, professional smile touches her lips. A blessing on this house, she says, her voice smooth and practiced. And congratulations on a healthy delivery. A boy or a girl? A girl, you murmur, instinctively pulling the blanket a little tighter. Girls are good. Elara nods, stepping inside and bringing a gust of damp, earthy air with her. They can be a great comfort, but they can also be a great expense. Her gaze meets your husband's, and a silent understanding seems to pass between them. He gestures for her to sit on the only other stool, his earlier caution now replaced by a flicker of tense curiosity. You feel a knot of unease tighten in your stomach. This is not a social call. Elara gets straight to the point. I come with an opportunity. A stroke of luck, you might say. The finest sort of luck for a family with a new mouth to feed and a strong, healthy mother. She looks directly at you, and her eyes linger on your form in a way that feels less personal and more agricultural, like a farmer assessing prize livestock. The physician to the Darcy family in the city has sent word. Their noble lady has just given birth to a son. No, but she is delicate, unable to nurse. The word hangs in the air, unspoken but understood by all. Nurse goes. They need a wet nurse, she continues, her voice dropping to a confidential, enticing tone. A woman of good stock, clean habits, and with fresh, abundant milk. The pay is more than your husband could earn in a year of good harvests. A warm room in the grand house, food from the master's kitchen, and a silver coin for every month of service. Your husband's breath catches. You can see the calculation in his eyes, the swift tally of debts, the memory of last year's failed crop, the constant, grinding worry that is the backdrop to your lives. To him, this isn't an offer, it's a miracle. It's the answer to a prayer he was too tired to even utter. But you're looking at the tiny, sleeping face of your daughter. The idea is so monstrous, so unnatural, that you can't even form a reply. To leave her to give the milk your body is making for her to a stranger. The first few days of milk are little good anyway. Elara says dismissively, as if reading your mind. It's a common belief, one you've heard whispered among the older women. They say the colostrum, the thick, yellowish first milk, is impure, that it's better to clear it out before the real white milk comes in. Some even give newborns a bit of honey or watered-down wine until the mother's milk is deemed clean. Historians centuries later will understand the vital, life-giving antibodies in this first milk. But for you, right now, Elara's words are just another to love persuasion, devaluing the very bond you're trying to protect. Think of what that silver could do. Your husband says, his voice rough with emotion, we can fix the Bayako. Your daughter would want for nothing when you return. When you return, a year to a child is not a sapling you can leave and expect to find unchanged. You would be a stranger to her. This is the very heart of a debate that will puzzle scholars for ages. Was this a choice? Or was it coercion? Looking at your husband's desperate, hopeful face, you feel the crushing weight of your family's survival on your shoulders. In that sense, there is no choice. The unspoken threat of starvation, of another brutal winter, is a form of force far more powerful than any command. Yet, a part of you, a tiny, pragmatic part that has always known hardship, recognizes the logic. To refuse would be to condemn not just yourself and your husband, but this very child, to a life of perpetual struggle. It presents itself as an act of maternal sacrifice. Leave your child for a time so that she might have a better life in the long run. Elara watches you, her head tilted. She has seen this internal battle play out on the faces of countless women. She knows the arguments, the fears, the justifications. It is a great honor, she adds softly, to nurse the future lord of the region. Many women would be grateful for such a post. It secures a family's fortune. The word lucky echoes in your mind, but it sounds like a curse. The miraculous event of your daughter's birth, the perfect functioning of your own body, has suddenly made you a valuable commodity. Your joy has become a resource to be tapped. The most natural thing in the world has become the most complicated decision of your life. The opportunity has been presented. Now, the choice, or the illusion of it, is yours. The silence in the cottage is no longer peaceful. It is the heavy, waiting silence of a world holding its breath. There is no formal agreement, no contract signed in ink. Your husband's solemn nod to Elara is enough. The deal is sealed in the heavy air of the cottage, a transaction built on desperation and hope. A part of you feels like you're floating, watching this happen to someone else. The next few hours are a blur of mechanical movements. Elara, ever the efficient manager, gives you instructions. You are to wash yourself thoroughly with the harsh lye soap. You are to put on your best and only other set of clothes. A simple wool dress, patched but clean. There is nothing to pack. You own nothing the De Rossi household would want or need. You, yourself, are the only possession being transferred. The most difficult task is preparing your daughter. You know she cannot come with you. The very logic of the arrangement forbids it. Your milk is for the De Rossi heir, not for her. The plan, brokered by Elara and agreed upon by your husband in a quiet, tense conversation you were not part of, is for you to leave the baby with your sister, who lives 2 hamlets away. She has a toddler of her own and a goat that gives just enough milk. It will have to be enough. You lift your daughter, her small body so light, so fragile, her eyes, the color of a stormy sky, are open now, blinking slowly as they try to make sense of the world. You hold her close, breathing in her scent, trying to memorize the feel of her warm cheek against your neck, the tiny, fluttering pulse at the base of her throat. This is a moment of profound intimacy, a quiet communion that feels like it should last an eternity. But the sun is already starting its downward dog, and Elara is waiting. The farewell is a silent, agonizing ritual. You swaddle her tightly. It's a practice you know by instinct, one passed down through generations. You fold the linen cloth just so, tucking her arms firmly to her sides, wrapping her legs together until she is a neat, secure bundle. The practice is meant to soothe her, to replicate the confinement of the womb and prevent her from startling herself with her own flailing limbs. But today, it feels like you are preparing a precious, fragile package for shipping. You are binding her, securing her, preparing her for a life without you. As you perform the final tuck, You do something no one else sees. You slip a tiny, smooth white stone, one you've carried in your pocket for years, from a nearby router bed, into the folds of her swaddling clothes, near her feet. It's a completely irrational gesture. A small, secret piece of magic, a piece of her home, of the earth she was born on, to keep her grounded, to keep her safe. It's a folk superstition, the kind of thing learned women in the city would scoff at. But it's all the protection you can offer. It's a whisper of a prayer made solid. Your husband walks with you to your sister's cottage. He carries the small bundle of your clothes. You carry your daughter. Every step is heavy. Every crunch of the dirt path beneath your feet feels like a countdown. When you arrive, your sister is waiting at her door, her face a mask of pity and grim acceptance. She knows the story. She has seen it before. This is the moment historians of the future will endlessly debate. Did mothers in your time, so accustomed to hardship and loss, feel this separation as profoundly as a modern mother would or was grief a luxury, blunted by the brutal calculus of survival as you stand there, on the precipice of this separation? You know the answer. The pain is not less, it is simply buried deeper, under layers of duty and necessity. It's a silent, internal scream. You hand your baby over, for a split second. Your hands and your sister's hands are both on the swaddled form, a human bridge between two lives. Then, you let go. The absence in your arms is a physical shock. A sudden, horrifying lightness. Your sister murmurs reassurances, but you barely hear her. You look at your daughter, now in another woman's arms, and her face begins to crumple. A tiny, kneeling cry escapes her lips, the sound of protest, of confusion. Promise me you'll keep her warm, you say, your voice a choked whisper. Water the goat's milk at first. Just a little. You cannot say I love you. You cannot say you'll be back soon. The words are too big. The promise is too fragile. To speak them would be to break completely. So you speak of practical things. It's a form of emotional triage, focusing on the manageable wounds while ignoring the mortal one. Your husband gently takes your arm. We have to go. Ilara is waiting with the cot. You turn away. This is the hardest part. To turn your back on your own crying child. To walk away while her thin, reedy wails follow you down the path. You don't look back. Looking back is bad luck. But more than that, you know if you look back, you won't be able to leave. With each step, the crying fades, not because she has stopped, but because you are moving further away. Soon, it is just the sound of your own footsteps, the chirping of crickets, and the frantic, silent beating of your own heart. The farewell is over. It was as quiet and as devastating as a final breath. You are on your way to a new life in the city, leaving your real one behind. The car ride to the city is a jarring, rattling journey into another world. You sit on a rough-hewn plank in the back of a small wagon. Ilara beside you. A thin blanket pulled over both your laps against the evening chill. The horse plods along at a steady, indifferent pace. Its hooves a rhythmic thud on the packed earth road. The world you know, the familiar shapes of trees. The smell of damp soil and wild herbs. The lowing of cattle settling for the night slowly recedes behind you. As dusk deepens into true night, the landscape changes. The open fields and dense thickets of woods give way to more cultivated land, then to scattered houses, larger and more sturdily built than any in your hamlet. Then, you see it, a glow on the horizon, a hazy, orange smear against the dark purple sky. It's the city. You've heard stories, of course, tales told by traveling merchants or the rare villager who had business there. They spoke of buildings so tall they scraped the clouds, of 1,000 lights burning at once, of a sea of people so vast you could be swept away like a leaf in a river. But the stories don't prepare you for the reality. As the car trembles closer, the glow resolves into individual points of light lanterns hung from doorways, torches flickering in sconces, the warm spill of light from the windows of taverns and grand houses. The air itself changes. The clean scent of the countryside is replaced by a complex, overwhelming miasma roasting meat, baking bread, spilled wine, human sweat, animal dung, and something vaguely foul from the gutters. It's the smell of life, dense and concentrated. The cart clatters onto a stone-paved street, and the noises of physical assault. The gentle sounds of the village are replaced by a cacophony of shouting vendors, laughing men spilling from a tavern. The clatter of other wagons, the barking of dogs, and the distant, haunting toll of a great church bell. You instinctively shrink into yourself, overwhelmed. This place is so full of life, yet it feels profoundly lonely. In your hamlet, every face is known, every person's story interwoven with your own. Here, you are anonymous, invisible. You stare at the people you pass. The sheer variety is staggering. Finely dressed merchants in velvet and furs stride with purpose. Grimy apprentices rush on errands. Women with painted faces call from shadowed doorways. A group of city guards, their breastplates glinting in the torchlight, shove their way through a crowd. It's a chaotic, vibrant, and intimidating ballet. You clutch the rough wood of the cart, a small, still point in a swirling vortex of humanity. This is the urban boom of the Renaissance. While the majority of the population still lives a rural, agrarian life, cities like this are expanding at an incredible rate. They are centers of commerce, art, and power, magnets for the ambitious, the desperate, and the talented. But this growth has a dark side, one that historians still grapple with. The infrastructure can't keep up. Sanitation is a constant, losing battle. Overcrowding breeds sickness. The gap between the fabulously wealthy and the crushingly poor is a chasm. And you are about to see it from a very specific, peculiar vantage point. Elara seems perfectly at home here. She navigates the cart through the labyrinthine streets with a practiced ease, calling out to the driver, pointing down narrow alleys. Finally, you turn onto a quieter, wider street. The buildings here are different. They are not shops or taverns but grand stone manors, looming silent and imposing behind high walls and iron gates. The noise of the city recedes, replaced by an unnerving, wealthy silence. The cart stops before one such gate, a monumental structure of wrought iron decorated with intricate swirls and the snarling head of a lion. A guard, holding a lantern, emerges from a small gatehouse. He recognizes Elara and, after a brief exchange, swings the massive gate open with a low groan. You pass through the gates, and it's as if you've crossed the final threshold into another reality. The chaos of the city vanishes, replaced by the manicured perfection of a private world. A sweeping gravel dot curves towards a house that is less a home and more a palace. Its stone facade is vast, with dozens of windows, many of them glowing with warm, expensive candlelight. The air smells of cut grass and blooming night flowers from the meticulously tended gardens. This is the home of the De Rossi family. It is a fortress of wealth and power, designed to keep the dirty, chaotic world you just passed through at a distance. And you, a girl from a mud and wattle cottage, have just been granted entry. But as you stare up at the imposing structure, you don't feel lucky or privileged. You feel like a very small, very fragile creature that has been swallowed whole. You have arrived at your destination, the world of silk and silver, of rules you don't yet understand, is waiting, and somewhere, miles behind you in the darkness, the world that contains your own child feels a million lifetimes away. You're led not through the grand front entrance, with its carved stone and heavy oak doors, but through a smaller, plainer door at the side of the house. The transition from the cool night air to the interior is immediate. The air inside is warm and smells of beeswax, dried herbs, and roasting meat. A labyrinth of stone-flagged corridors stretches before you, lit by flickering oil lamps that cast long, dancing shadows. Elara hands you off to a stern-faced woman in a drab grey dress and a pristine white cap. This is the head housekeeper. She doesn't smile. Her name is Signora Viola, and she looks at you not as a person, but as an acquisition. Her eyes scan you from head to toe. A quick, critical inventory. She notes your worn but clean dress, your rough, work-worn hands, and the nervous way you stand. Her expression is one of mild disapproval, as if you are a necessary but slightly inconvenient piece of equipment. She's healthy, Signora Viola asks Elara, not even looking at you. The physician approved her himself, Elara says smoothly, handing over a small, sealed piece of parchment, strong as an ox. Good teeth. No sign of the lung sickness. Good teeth. It's a strange thing to comment on, but you understand its significance. Bad teeth were often a sign of poor health and disease, something that could, in their view, be passed through the milk. You are being assessed like a prized mare. Your physical attributes itemized and judged for their utility. With the transaction complete, Elara gives you a final, brief nod and disappears back down the corridor, her footsteps echoing until they fade completely. You are alone with Signora Viola. Your last link to the world outside these walls is gone. Come, the housekeeper says, her voice clipped and devoid of warmth. She leads you up a narrow, winding staircase, a servant stairwell hidden from the grander parts of the house. The stone is worn smooth in the center from centuries of hurried footsteps. Finally, she opens a door into a room that takes your breath away. It's the nursery. The room is larger than your entire cottage. A thick, richly colored rug covers the floor. Its patterns a dizzying swirl of flowers and animals. The walls are hung with heavy tapestries depicting pastoral scenes of shepherds and rosy-cheeked maidens, a romanticized, sanitized version of the life you just lived. A large fire crackles merrily in the stone fireplace, casting a warm, golden glow over everything. And in the center of the room, like a shrine, is the cradle. It's an object of breathtaking craftsmanship, carved from a dark, polished wood. It's inlaid with mother-of-pearl and has silk hangings a deep royal blue, embroidered with golden thread. It rocks on curved runners, and as you watch, it moves with the slightest, gentlest motion. Signora Viola leads you to it. You will sleep in this room, on the chuckle bed in the corner. You will not leave unless given permission. You will eat what you are given. You will speak only when spoken to. Your only job is him. She gestures toward the cradle. You step forward, your worn leather shoes silent on the plush rug. You peer over the carved edge. Lying on a mattress of the softest down, nestled in sheets of fine, smooth linen, is a baby. He is, you have to admit, a beautiful child. He is larger than your own daughter, tempered, his skin a pale, flawless white, like milk. He has a wispy halo of golden hair. He is sleeping peacefully, his tiny chest rising and falling in a steady rhythm, one chubby fist resting by his cherubic cheek. He is the picture of health and privilege. This is the de Rossier, the stranger, the reason you are here. You look at him, and you feel nothing, a profound and unsettling blankness. There is no rush of maternal feeling, no spark of connection. You see an object, a responsibility, the source of your income and the cause of your sorrow. The contrast between this opulent cradle and the simple wooden box your own father likely slept in is so stark it makes you dizzy. This child is swaddled not in rough spun linen, but in something that looks like silk. He smells faintly of lavender water. A deep, primal part of you resents him. You resent his peaceful slumber, his well-fed cheeks, his effortless security. He is everything your daughter is not, while he lies here, warm and safe by the fire. Your own child is miles away, likely cold, being fed watered-down goat's milk from a clay bowl. The injustice of it is a physical pain, a sharp, hot poker in your chest. Yet, you know that this child is also innocent. He did not ask for this arrangement. He is as much a pawn in this system as you are, albeit a much more comfortable one. The true source of this whole situation, his mother, is nowhere to be seen. This practice, known as farming out infants to wet nurses, was incredibly common among the European aristocracy and rising merchant classes. Historians still debate the primary motivations. Was it vanity? To preserve the figure and avoid the coarsening effects of breastfeeding? Was it social convenience, freeing the lady of the house to manage her complex social calendar? Or was it based on faulty medical advice that noble women were simply too refined and delicate to produce robust milk? The likely answer is a combination of all three. What isn't debated is the consequence: the creation of a vast, commercialized system of childcare that separated mothers from their babies on both ends of the economic spectrum. As you stand there, staring at the silk-swaddled stranger, Signora Viola's sharp voice cuts through your thoughts. He will wake soon. He will be hungry. See that you are ready. The words are a command. You look down at your own body, at the bodice of your simple dress. You are a vessel. Your grief, your resentment, your fear, none of it matters. You are here to perform a single, biological function. You are here to feed the stranger in the silk cradle. The baby stirs, and a soft, mewling sound breaks the silence of the opulent room. It's a sound you know intimately, the universal signal of a newborn's needs, but hearing it from this child, in this place, sends a strange jolt through you. Your body reacts before your mind does. You feel a familiar tingling sensation in your breasts, the physiological response of letdown, the milk preparing itself for release. It's a biological betrayal. Your body answering the call of a stranger's child. Signora Viola gives you a sharp, expectant look. Well, go on. You move to the small truckle bed in the corner, your designated space in this vast room. It's a simple, low cot, a stark contrast to the grand cradle. But the mattress is stuffed with feathers, not straw, and the blanket is clean, soft wool. You sit on the edge, your back straight, and with fumbling, uncertain hands, you begin to unlace the bodice of your dress. The rough woolen linen feel alien against your skin, which is still tender and sensitive. As you prepare yourself, Signora Viola begins to recite your instructions. Her voice a monotonous drone of rules and prohibitions. This is not a conversation, it is the reading of terms and conditions. Your diet will be managed by the kitchen, she states, pacing slowly back and forth. You will eat what is sent up. Plenty of bread, pottage, chicken, and retail. No onions, no garlic, no cabbage. They are said to sour the milk and give the child colic. You nod. Though you've eaten onions and garlic your entire life without issue. The idea that your food directly and immediately flavors your milk is a deeply held belief. It's not entirely baseless. Strong flavors can indeed subtly pass through, but the level of control and the list of forbidden foods are more rooted in superstition and social control than in actual science. This is the first layer of the cage being built around you, control over what you put into your own body. You will wash twice a day. She continues, once in the morning, once before bed, with the soap provided. Cleanliness is paramount. The child's health depends on it. Twice a day. In your village, a full wash was a weekly, or even less frequent. Or so, water had to be hot and heated, a laborious process. Here, it seems, hot water is an abundant commodity, but its use is a duty, not a comfort. You are not to indulge in strong emotions, Signora Viola says, her voice lowering slightly, as if imparting a great secret. No fits of anger, no deep melancholy. The physicians believe a mother's passions can poison the milk, causing humors and fluxes in the infant. You must remain placid, serene. This is the most suffocating rule of all. They want to regulate your feelings. You are to be a placid, unthinking vessel, a human cow, content and calm. The storm of grief and fear raging inside you must be hidden, locked away. Lest it curdle the precious nourishment. The irony is crushing. The very event causing your deep melancholy, being separated from your own child, is the emotion you are forbidden from showing. This belief that a mother's emotional state could be transmitted through breast milk was a cornerstone of pediatric advice for centuries. It was a powerful tool for controlling the lives of women, especially those, like you, in a position of service. The baby's cries grow louder, more insistent now. It's time. Signora Viola lifts the infant from his silken nest with a practiced, impersonal efficiency. She handles him like a precious vase, supporting his head, arranging his blankets. She brings him to you. Sit here, she commands, pointing to a sturdy wooden armchair near the fire. Its cushions plump and covered in velvet. It's more comfortable than any chair you've ever sat in. You move to the chair, your movements stiff and awkward. The housekeeper places the baby into your arms. He feels heavier than your daughter, more solid. He smells of lavender and clean linen. As you position him, he roots instinctively, his small, wet mouth finding your breast. The moment he latches on, a complex wave of emotions washes over you. There is the purely physical sensation, a familiar pull that eases the uncomfortable fullness in your chest. But layered on top of that is a profound sense of wrongness. This is not the right child. This is not the right place. Every instinct in your body is screaming that this milk, this life-giving sustenance your body has created, belongs to the tiny, fragile girl you left behind. You stare down at the top of the blonde-haired head, at the small ear, at the rhythmic motion of his jaw as he sucked less. You feel a bizarre and unwelcome intimacy with the stranger. This act, which should be a bond of love and connection, has been reduced to a medical procedure, a transfer of nutrients. To distract yourself from the turmoil in your heart, you focus on a small, peculiar detail. Tucked into the baby's swaddling clothes is a small piece of red coral, tied to his wrist with a silken ribbon. It's a charm, not unlike the smooth stone you tucked into your own daughter's wrappings. It's a fascinating glimpse into the shared anxieties of motherhood across the class divide. Even here, in this fortress of wealth, surrounded by physicians and every imaginable comfort, they still resort to folk magic to ward off the evil eye and protect their child. The rich have their own superstitions, just as the poor do. Theirs are just made of more expensive materials. Signora Viola stands over you, watching your every move, her arms crossed. Her presence is a constant, oppressive reminder that this is not a tender moment between mother and child. It is a supervised task. You are under observation. You are a living machine, and your performance being evaluated. You are your body, and your body now belongs to them. The days bleed into one another, each marked by the same relentless routine: the baby's cries, the feeding, the brief walk in the manicured garden for air and gentle exercise. Signora Viola instructs. The meticulously prepared meals, the washing, and the long, silent hours in between. Your world has shrunk to the four walls of the nursery. It is a comfortable prison, but a prison nonetheless. During the long quiet stretches, while the de Rossi air sleeps soundly in his ornate cradle, you find yourself listening. You listen to the sounds of the great house, the distant clang of pots from the kitchens, the faint murmur of voices from the rooms below, the chime of a clock you cannot see. You are isolated, but the house is alive around you. It's from snippets of conversations, from a chambermaid who brings your food, or a footman who comes to tend the fire, that you begin to piece together the world of your employers. They speak of the master's business dealings, of the lady's upcoming social engagements, and, most interestingly, of their beliefs. It's in these fragments that you start to understand the full, bizarre tapestry of myths surrounding your job. One afternoon, a young maid named Sophia, kinder and more talkative than the others, lingers while collecting your empty lunch tray. The lady was asking about you. She whispers, her eyes wide. She wanted to know if you'd been sad. Signora Viola told her you were as calm as a summer pond. You just nod, your face a practiced mask of placidity. You have become an expert at this, at smoothing your features into a serene blankness while your mind is screaming. They say, Sophia continues, leaning closer, that if the nurse has a fright, the milk can turn to poison, and if she thinks impure thoughts, Well, she blushes and looks away. The idea is astonishing. They believe your very thoughts can be transmitted through your milk. It's not just about avoiding anger or sadness, it's about a form of mental policing. This is a common belief rooted in the ancient theory of humors. The idea that the body is governed by four fluids and that a person's temperament and health are dictated by their balance. A wet nurse's milk was seen as a direct conduit for these humors. If you were naturally melancholic or prone to anger, it was believed you could pass these traits on, permanently shaping the child's character. This is why your placid demeanor is so important to them. You are not just feeding the heir's body, you are building his character, his very soul, with your own essence. The pressure of this responsibility is immense and terrifying. Every time you feel a pang of grief for your own daughter, you immediately suppress it, terrified that your sorrow could somehow harm this child. The myths extend beyond your emotions. One day, the physician himself comes to inspect you and the baby. He is a man with a neat grey beard and expensive robes, who smells of clothes and self-importance. He barely looks at you as a person, but he examines the baby with intense focus. He then turns to Signora Viola. The milk is good, he proclaims, as if tasting a fine wine. Her temperament is clearly stable, and her own child was it a boy? A girl, I believe. The housekeeper replies. Excellent, the physician says with a satisfied nod. Excellent. Feeding a boy with milk made for a girl is acceptable, but the reverse is far from ideal. Milk for a male child is naturally more robust, more vigorous. It creates strong men. You listen to this, stunned. The idea that breast milk is gender-specific, that a mother's body somehow produces a different flavor of milk depending on the sex of her infant, is utterly absurd. Yet this man of science, this respected physician, states it as undeniable fact. It's a fascinating, if infuriating, piece of pseudoscience. Centuries later, scientists will confirm that while the composition of breast milk can change based on the baby's needs, for instance, becoming richer in antibodies if the baby is sick, it has absolutely nothing to do with gender. But, in your time, this knowledge is used to select and manage women like you, adding another layer of arbitrary criteria to your value. Perhaps the most poignant myth is one you learn about the lady of the house herself, Lady Eleonora. Sophia, the chatty maid, tells you that Lady Eleonora avoids the nursery not just out of social duty, but out of a genuine fear that her own affection could harm the bond between you and her son. She believes that if the baby comes to know her smell, her touch, he will be confused. Sophia explains. He might reject your milk then, and pine for hers, which the physician says is too thin and weak. So she stays away, for his own good. This is the tragic, twisted logic of the era. A mother intentionally distances herself from her own newborn, believing it to be an act of love. She outsources not only the feeding but the primary bonding, convinced that a stranger's stronger nature is better for her child. Historians will debate whether this was a convenient excuse for uninterested mothers or a reflection of genuine, albeit misguided, maternal anxiety. Looking at the empty, silent doorway of the nursery, you suspect it might be a little of both. You live in a world governed by these invisible rules, these strange and powerful beliefs. Your diet, your emotions, your very thoughts are all under scrutiny, all believed to directly impact the precious air. You are a walking, talking science experiment, conducted by people whose science is a mishmash of folklore, superstition, and class prejudice. And as you sit in the velvet chair, feeding the stranger's child, you do your best to be the placid, thoughtless vessel they require, all while your heart and mind are 1,000 miles away in a dusty cottage, with a girl who is getting none of the benefits of your carefully managed humors. The nursery, once a symbol of overwhelming opulence, has become your entire universe. Its tapestries are the only landscapes you see. The crackling fire your only sun. You know every knot in the wooden floorboards, every embroidered leaf on the cradle's canopy, The gilded cage is exquisitely furnished, but the bars are cold and unyielding. Your days are a study in contrast. You are surrounded by luxury, yet you own nothing. The food you eat is richer and more varied than any you've ever known. Stewed chicken, soft white bread, sweet puddings, but you eat it alone, from a simple wooden tray, while the De Rossi family dines on silver plates in the great hall below. You sleep on a feather mattress, a luxury beyond the dreams of anyone in your village. But your sleep is shallow, punctuated by the baby's needs and your own anxious thoughts. The loneliness is the heaviest burden. It's a thick, suffocating blanket. In your village, life was communal. You worked, celebrated, and mourned alongside your neighbors. Even in silence, there was a sense of shared existence. Here, you are adrift in a sea of people to whom you are functionally invisible. The other servants are wary of you. You are not truly one of them. You don't share in their daily chores, their gossip, their camaraderie. You live in the master's wing of the house, a privilege that sets you apart. They see you as temporarily elevated, a strange hybrid creature, part servant, part maternal totem. Their interactions with you are brief, formal, and tinged with a mixture of envy and pity. You try to talk to Sophia, the young maid, but she is always in a hurry, always looking over her shoulder for the disapproving gaze of Signora Viola. She offers you snippets of house gossip, but there is a wall between you. Your experiences are too different. Her worries are about avoiding a scolding or catching the eye of a handsome footman. Your worries are of a different, more primal nature. The silence gives you too much time to think. Your mind endlessly replays the moment you handed your daughter to your sister. You try to picture her. Is she warm? Is she growing? Does she cry often? The not knowing is a special kind of torture. You imagine her wrapped in her simple linen, the goat's milk being prepared, the face of your sister, weary and overworked, bending over her. These images are vivid and painful, and you have to constantly push them down, mindful of the rule against deep melancholy. To combat the loneliness and the forbidden thoughts, you focus on the child in your care. You have to. It's a matter of survival. You learn his rhythms, the specific cadence of his hungry cry versus his tired cry. You learn the way he likes to be held, the soft gurgling sounds he makes when he's content. You start to call him Piccolino Little One in your mind, a small, secret name to bridge the chasm of anonymity between you. There is a strange, complicated bond forming. It's not the fierce, instinctual love you feel for your own daughter, but it's something. It's a bond of duty, of proximity, of shared, quiet hours, when he smiles. A gummy, unfocused grin. A part of you can't help but smile back. When he grasps your finger with his surprisingly strong grip, you feel a flicker of connection. You are his entire world right now. His sun, his moon, his source of comfort and food. This relationship between wet nurse and charge is a subject of great fascination for historians. In a world without photographs or video, the first face a noble child would truly know was often not their mothers, but their nurses. These bonds could be incredibly powerful and last a lifetime. Some nurses became beloved members of the extended family, staying on as governesses or companions. But this was not guaranteed. For many, the bond was severed the moment the child was weaned, a brutal and sudden end to the only maternal relationship the child had ever known. Whether your connection to Piccolino will be one of lasting affection or abrupt dismissal is a future you cannot predict. One evening, as you are rocking the cradle, a piece of music drifts up from below. It's a lute. Its notes delicate and melancholic. The sound is so beautiful, so full of a sadness that mirrors your own, that it brings tears to your eyes. You quickly wipe them away, glancing at the door, terrified someone will see you breaking the most important rule. You are to be serene, a compun. But tonight, the music has stirred the waters. You stand up and walk to the heavily curtained window. You part the velvet just a sliver and look out. Below, in the walled garden, you can see a man and a woman walking. The woman is draped in silks that shimmer in the moonlight. The man is holding the lute. It's Lord and Lady de Rossi, your employers. They are strolling in the garden, sharing a moment of quiet intimacy, while you, the stranger, are upstairs, caring for their child. You are living in the heart of their home, but you are utterly separate from their life. You are a tool, a biological necessity housed in a luxurious room. This grand house is not a home to you. It's a gilded cage, and the silence within it is the sound of your own heart slowly breaking. You let the curtain fall back into place, plunging the room back into its firelit isolation. The lute music fades, and the silence returns, heavier than before. Within the rigid hierarchy of the De Rossi household, your position is a strange and contradictory one. You are, by birth and station, a servant, but your function elevates you to a status that is both privileged and precarious. You are an anomaly, and the other servants treat you as such. The household staff is a small army, each with a specific rank and role. At the bottom are the scullery maids and stable boys, their days filled with the hardest, dirtiest work. Above them are the footmen, the chambermaids like Sophia, the cooks, and the vailets, and at the very top, reigning over them all with an iron fist, is Signora Viola, the housekeeper, and her male counterpart, the majordomo, who manages the male staff. It's a complex ecosystem with its own unwritten rules of deference and respect. You exist outside of this established order. You don't take your meals with the other servants in the noisy, communal hall in the basement. Your food, of a much higher quality, is brought to you on a tray. You don't sleep in the cramped attic dormitories. You have a private, albeit simple, bed in the most luxurious wing of the house. These are not signs of favor, they are measures of quarantine. You are being kept separate, sure, and uncontaminated for the sake of the air. This separation breeds a quiet resentment. When you pass other servants in the corridors on your brief, supervised walks, their greetings are clipped, their eyes guarded. You can feel their unspoken thoughts. Who is this peasant girl? Eating the master's chicken while they dine on bread and pottage, why does she get to rest by the fire while they are on their feet for 18 hours a day? They don't see the gilded bars of your cage, they only see the gilding. There is a fascinating, if somewhat grim, historical precedent for this. Wet nurses were often seen as liminal figures, existing on the threshold between social classes. They were of the lower class but lived an upper-class life. This could lead to a spoiling effect. Some historical accounts complain of wet nurses becoming arrogant, making demands, and forgetting their place. As a result, housekeepers like Signora Viola were tasked with managing them carefully, providing comfort but constantly reinforcing their subservient status. Your clothes are a perfect example of this. You are not permitted to wear your own rough, homespun dress. Instead, you are issued a uniform, a simple, well-made dress of dark green wool. It's finer than anything you've ever owned, but it is still a uniform. It marks you. But unlike the other maids' grey dresses, yours is a different color, signifying your unique role. You are not a maid, not a cook, not a lady. You are the nurse. A title, not a name. The only person who treats you with a semblance of camaraderie is the cook, a stout, red-faced woman named Beatrice. She's the one who prepares your special diet. Sometimes, when she brings your tray herself instead of sending a maid, she lingers for a moment. "Eat up, girl," she'll say, her voice a low rumble. "Need to keep your strength up. Got to make that milk rich." She talks about your milk the way she talks about her sauces, or something to be carefully crafted with the right ingredients. One day, she smuggles you a small piece of candied ginger. "Here," she whispers, pressing it into your hand, "for your stomach. But don't let the old crow see it." The old crow is, of course, Signora Viola. It's a tiny act of rebellion, a shared secret that feels like a lifeline. Beatrice also tells you a peculiar and sad story about her own sister. She was a nurse, too, for a family of cloth merchants. A fine boy. She loved him like her own. When he was weaned, They sent her away with a bag of coins. Broke her heart. It did. She said the silence in her own house was the worst part. This is the unspoken fear that hangs over you. Your service is temporary. The intimacy you are developing with Picamino, the routine of his care, the purpose he gives your days, it all has an expiration date. When he no longer needs your milk, you will be dismissed. This is the cold, hard fact of your employment. You are a biological contract, and one day, that contract will be terminated. The most isolating aspect of your role is your relationship with the child himself. The other servants see you holding, soothing, and feeding the air. This physical intimacy with a member of the ruling family is a source of power they can never have. It creates a moat of jealousy around you. They cannot understand that this intimacy is a torment, a constant reminder of the child you are not holding. They cannot see the grief that underlies every lullaby you hum. So you remain an outsider, a servant in soul. You are close to the heart of the family's power, yet utterly removed from its warmth. You are a vital cog in the machine of the De Rossi legacy, but you are also entirely disposable. You are a guest in the servants' hall and a servant in the master's chambers, belonging in neither, and in this lonely, in-between space, you are left to wonder which is worse, the open hostility of a superior, or the quiet, resentful deference of a peer. Weeks have passed since your arrival, and you have yet to have a proper encounter with the lady of the house. You have seen her from your window, a distant, shimmering figure in the garden. You have heard her voice, a light, musical murmur from the hallway, but she has never crossed the threshold of the nursery. She is a ghost in her own child's life, an absence that is as powerful as a presence. Then, one afternoon, the door to the nursery opens without the customary knock of a servant. You look up from where you are folding linen, your heart giving a sudden, anxious leap. It's her, Lady Eleonora de Rossi. She is even more beautiful up close than she was from the window. She is young, not much older than you, with hair the color of spun gold, intricately braided and pinned with pearls. Her gown is a deep crimson velvet, so rich it seems to drink the light from the room. She looks delicate, ethereal, as if she's spun from finer threads than ordinary people. She also looks profoundly nervous. She doesn't look at you. Her eyes go straight to the cradle where her son is sleeping. She takes a few hesitant steps into the room, her silk slippers soundless on the rug. She moves as if she's an intruder in this space that has been claimed by you and her child. You instinctively drop into a curtsy, murmuring, "My lady." Your voice sounds rough and foreign in the quiet, opulent room. She gives a small, distracted nod in your direction, her attention still fixed on the cradle. "Yes, well," she asks, her voice soft and high-pitched. "Yes, my lady, he is strong. He feeds well." There is a long, awkward silence. You are two mothers in a room with one child, separated by a chasm of class, wealth, and experience. You, who have been through the raw, physical trial of childbirth and are now lactating. So, for whom the process has been medicalized, distanced, and now delegated. She drifts closer to the cradle, peering down at her son. A complex expression flits across her face: pride, wonder, and something else. Fear, or perhaps it's a kind of detached curiosity, as if she's admiring a beautiful object she has acquired but doesn't quite know how to handle. This moment highlights a fundamental tension that historians have long explored. The use of a wet nurse created a strange maternal triangle. The biological mother held the authority and the social standing, but the wet nurse held the physical and emotional intimacy. This often led to feelings of jealousy, resentment, and insecurity on both sides. The noble lady might resent the nurse for forging a bond with her child that she herself was denied, or feared. The nurse might resent the lady for her privilege, for stealing her milk while her own child went without. "The physician says your milk is of an excellent quality," Lady Eleonora says, still not looking at you. It's a strange compliment, like praising a farmer for a good crop. He says you are of a common placid nature. You want to scream. You want to tell her that your calmness is a performance, that beneath the surface you are a roiling sea of grief for the daughter she has forced you to abandon. You want to ask her why she won't hold her own son, why she outsources the most fundamental act of motherhood. But you say nothing. You simply stand in respectful silence, your hands clasped before you. To speak the truth would be to lose everything. Then, she does something that surprises you. She reaches out a slender, pale hand. Her fingers adorned with rings, and gently, hesitantly, touches her son's cheek. It's a tentative, fleeting gesture. The baby stirs but doesn't wake. A flicker of genuine, unadulterated love shines in her eyes. So brief and so powerful it takes your breath away. In that instant, she is not just a noble lady, a symbol of a system that oppresses you. She is a mother, looking at her child. But the moment passes. She withdraws her hand as if burned. She turns and finally looks at you, her gaze direct and searching. You will take good care of him, she says. It is not a question. It is a command, tinged with a plea. With my life, my lady, you reply, and the words taste like ash in your mouth. You are taking care of him with a life your daughter's. A peculiar, and perhaps apocryphal, story from this era tells of a French queen who became so jealous of the bond between her son and his wet nurse that she ordered the nurse to be flogged in front of the child. The goal was to make the child fear the nurse and break their emotional connection. While likely an exaggeration, this story speaks to the very real anxieties that defined this three-way relationship. The mother was the womb mother, the nurse was the milk mother, and the child was caught in the middle. Lady Eleonora gives one last, lingering look at the cradle, then turns and sweeps out of the room as silently as she entered. The scent of her expensive perfume hangs in the air for a moment, a ghostly reminder of her presence. You are left alone again, your heart pounding. The confrontation was quiet, civil, and utterly devastating. You have seen the fear and insecurity behind her noble facade. You have seen that she is also, in her own way, trapped by the expectations of her station, by the pronouncements of her physician, by the very system that has given her so much power over you. But this understanding brings no comfort. It only makes the situation more tragic. You are two women, two mothers, who should be able to find common ground in the shared miracle of new life. Instead, you are adversaries in a silent and declared war, with an innocent child as the prize. And it is a war that you, by virtue of your station, are destined to lose. The face you force yourself not to see during the day haunts you in the quiet moments of the night, after Piccolino has lost feeding, when the house is finally still and the fire has burned down to glowing embers. You lie on your truckle bed and stare into the darkness. It is then that the image of your own daughter rises in your mind, unbiddened and painfully clear. You see her as you last saw her, her face crumpled in a cry, her tiny body held in your sister's arms. In your memory, that cry never stops. It's a faint, reedy wail that echoes in the silent corners of your mind. Your heart aches with a physical intensity, a hollow pang of absence. Your arms, which have grown accustomed to the weight of the dear Aussie air, feel empty. They were made to hold someone else. You find yourself performing small, secret rituals of remembrance. You count the days since you left, 28, 35, 42. Each number is a small stone dropped into the deep well of your sorrow. You try to imagine her development. Would she be smiling by now? Can she lift her head? Does she notice the world around her? Or is her world still just a blur of hunger and sleep? The questions are a form of self-torture, but you can't stop them. The lack of information is a void that your mind rushes to fill with the tapestry of fears. You worry about the goat's milk. Is it enough? Is it nourishing? You remember stories of village children who failed to thrive on it, who grew thin and weak. You pray that your sister is adding a little honey to it, or perhaps a bit of mashed bread, though you know they can ill afford even that. This fear was tragically well-founded. While some infants survived on alternatives to breast milk, The mortality rate was terrifyingly high. Animal milk was difficult to digest and often contaminated. Papa mushu bread, water, or flour lacked the vital nutrients a growing infant needs. The gut-wrenching reality, which historians have confirmed through parish records and mortality statistics, is that the child of a wet nurse had a dramatically lower chance of survival than the noble child she was paid to feed. Your anxiety is not an overreaction, it is a tragically accurate assessment of the risks. The guilt is a constant companion, a heavy cloak you can never take off. You see the plump, healthy limbs of Piccolino, the way he gains weight each week, the milky satisfaction on his face after a feeding, and every ounce he gains feels like an ounce stolen from your own child. You are presiding over his flourishing while your daughter, for all you know, is fading away. The silver coins you are earning, the coins that are meant to secure her future, feel like a blood price. One night, you are woken by a sound. It's not Piccolino he is sleeping soundly. It's a small, scratching noise from near the hearth. Your heart seizes with a primal fear of rats, a common and dangerous pest. You sit up, peering into the gloom. It's not a rat, it's a tiny mouse, its nose twitching as it nibbles on a crumb that must have fallen from your dinner tray. It is small, gray, and utterly insignificant. But, as you watch it, a wave of profound tenderness washes over you. You think of your own daughter, just as small, just as vulnerable, trying to survive in a world of giants. You don't shoo the mouse away. You watch it until it has finished its meager meal and disappeared back into a crack in the wall. It's a secret moment of connection to the small, fragile things of the world. A projection of the maternal care you are forbidden to give to its rightful recipient. This projection of maternal instinct is a psychological phenomenon that is not often recorded in the grand histories. But it is a deeply human truth when the primary object of love is removed. That powerful emotion must find another outlet. For you, it's a mouse. For other nurses, it might have been a stray cat, a bird in the garden, or even a disproportionate affection for the noble child in their care. You try to find comfort in the logic that brought you here. You repeat the words your husband said, the promise of a better life for your daughter. We can fix the roof, buy a coal. You are doing this for her. But the logic feels thin and brittle in the dead of night. An infant doesn't understand logic. An infant understands only presence or absence, comfort or hunger. And you are absent. The shadow in your heart has a name and a face. It is the ghost at the feast of Piccolino's health. Every lullaby you sing to him is a lament for her. Every gentle touch is a betrayal. You are living a double life. In the daylight, you are the placid, efficient nurse. In the darkness, you are a mother consumed by a grief she cannot show and a love she cannot give. And this silent, secret life is slowly, inexorably, wearing you away. More than 2 months have passed in the gilded cage of the nursery when word finally arrives from your home. It doesn't come directly. News from your world doesn't travel in straight lines. It follows the winding, unpredictable paths of merchants and travelers. A man from a neighboring village had business in the city, and he carried with him a small, folded piece of parchment, passed to him by your husband, who had passed it to another, and so on. It finally found its way to the De Rossi kitchen, where Beatrice, the cook, recognized its significance and brought it to you herself, hidden in the folds of a clean linen towel. Your hands tremble as you take it. The parchment is rough, cheap, and smudged with dirt. It feels like a relic from another life. You wait until Beatrice has gone, your heart hammering against your ribs, before you dare to open it. The message is not written by your husband. He cannot write. He would have had to pay the village priest or a traveling scribe a small fee to pen the words for him. A public declaration of a private matter. The script is a clumsy, laborious scroll. The ink is faint. There are only a few sentences. To the nurse at the De Rossi house. Your sister sends word. The child is not well. She is thin and cries often. The goat gives little milk now. We pray to God for his mercy. Do not worry. Your work is important. Each word is a blow. Not well, thin, cries often. The vague, understated language is more terrifying than any detailed description would be. In the stoic vocabulary of village life, not well is a grave understatement. It means the situation is dire. The goat gives little milk is a death sentence in miniature. It means the primary source of sustenance is failing. The final two sentences are what break you. Do not worry. Your work is important. It's your husband's voice, filtered through the hand of a stranger. He is trying to reassure you, to keep you focused on the task that is supposed to save them all. But his words have the opposite effect. They underscore the brutal reality of your situation. You are here, earning silver to solve a problem, while the problem itself is escalating into a crisis. The solution is arriving too slowly. You read the letter again and again, as if staring at the words long enough will change their meaning. You feel a frantic, desperate need to do something, to run, to scream, to somehow bridge the miles between this opulent room and that cold, hungry cottage, but you are trapped. You can't just leave. To abandon your post would be to break a sacred contract. You would be hunted down, likely punished, and you would forfeit all the money you have earned. You would arrive home with nothing, having sacrificed everything for naught. This is the cruel paradox of your position, a dilemma that historians can describe with economic terms, but that you experience as a visceral tearing apart of your soul. You are caught in a system where the only way to save your family financially is to abandon them physically, at the very moment your physical presence is most needed. You look over at Pecolino, sleeping peacefully in his cradle. He is the picture of robust health. His cheeks are full and rosy, his little body sturdy and warm. The contrast between his thriving existence and the fading life of your own daughter, described in the smudged ink on the parchment, is a grotesque blow. You are the fulcrum on which these two fates balance. Your body, your milk, is being diverted from the one who is starving to the one who is already fed. You crumple the letter in your fist, the rough parchment digging into your palm. A single, hot tear escapes and drools down your cheek, then another. You choke back a sob, pressing your knuckles to your mouth. You have to be silent. You have to be serene. The rule against deep melancholy is no longer just a bizarre prohibition, it is an active, ongoing battle against the primal scream of a terrified mother. You stare into the fire, the letter tight, painful knot in your hand. What can you do? You have no power, no agency. You can only do what you were told your important work. You can only continue to feed this stranger's child, hoping, praying, that you are not just fattening one baby for the slaughter of another. The letter, meant to inform you, has become a source of profound torment. It has replaced the vague, shadowy fears of your imagination with concrete, terrifying facts. The shadow of your daughter is no longer just a memory, she is a real, suffering child, and you are getting the news of her decline in delayed, second-hand dispatches, like a general receiving news of a battle already lost. The weight of that single piece of parchment in your hand feels heavier than the entire grand house around you. The weight of the letter settles deep in your bones, a cold stone of dread. The world of the dear Osimena, which had started to become a familiar, sterile environment, now feels alien and hostile. Every luxury is an insult. The warmth of the fire mocks the cold in your sister's cottage. The rich stew you're served for dinner tastes like ashes in your mouth. Your important work feels like a monstrous collaboration in a crime against your own flesh and blood. Your anxiety, now sharp and specific, makes you desperate for information, for any scrap of knowledge that might give you context for your daughter's fate. You start listening more intently to the servants' gossip, trying to steer their conversations towards topics of childhood, sickness, and survival. It is in this state of heightened alert that you first hear the term whispered baby farm. It comes from a hushed conversation between two laundry maids you overhear in the corridor. They are speaking of a distant cousin, a girl from the city, who had a child out of wedlock, had to give it up, of course, One of them says, her voice low, no husband, no money. Sent it out to one of those places near the tanneries. They baby farm, they call it. The angel makers. The other one murmurs, crossing herself, God have mercy on that child's soul. The term baby farm sends a shiver down your spine. It sounds bucolic, almost peaceful, like a place where lambs or calves are raised. But the second maid's comment angel makers reveals its true, horrific nature. You become obsessed. You press Beatrice, the cook, for more information, feigning a distant curiosity. I heard a strange term. You say one evening, your voice carefully casual. They baby farm, what is such a place? Beatrice stops kneading her dough, her flour-dusted hands stilling. She looks at you, her expression grim. It's no place for decent folk to talk about, she says. It's where unwanted babies go, the ones born in shame, or the ones whose mothers can't feed them. She pauses, and her gaze is full of a pity that makes your stomach clench. Sometimes, a wet nurse's baby ends up there, if her family can't care for it. The unspoken implication hangs in the air between you. She knows. She understands the precarious position your own daughter is in. She continues, her voice barely a whisper. They're run by old women, usually, for a few pennies a week. They'll take a baby in. They call themselves nurses, but they have too many. A dozen, maybe more, all crowded into one filthy room. There's not enough food. They feed them pap, or watered-down cow's milk with a bit of gin in it to keep them quiet. Gin. The word hits you like a physical blow, a drink to induce stupor, not to nourish. Most of them don't last the winter. Beatrice concludes, turning back to her and kneading it with a sudden, violent energy. They just fade away. It's cheaper for the woman running the place if they do. One less mouth to feed. This is the dark, secret underbelly of the entire system that employs you, while you are here, in a sanitized, luxurious environment, providing the highest quality of care to a noble child. A parallel industry exists to dispose of the inconvenient byproducts of that system, the children of the wet nurses themselves. These baby farms were a grim reality in European cities for centuries. Historians, studying parish death records, have uncovered the shockingly high mortality rates associated with these institutions, which were often little more than holding pens where infants were left to die of neglect and malnutrition. They were the tragic, hidden consequence of a society that commodified maternal care. The knowledge is a poison. Your mind immediately leaps to the worst possible conclusion. Your sister, struggling with her own toddler and a goat that has run dry, might be tempted. Someone might tell her it's the only way. A few pennies a week. A solution to an impossible problem. That night, you have a nightmare. You are walking through a field, but instead of grass, the ground is covered in tiny, crying babies. You are trying to find your daughter, but you can't tell them apart. An old woman with a face like a dried apple follows you, laughing. You wake up with a gasp. Your nightgown soaked in sweat. Your heart pounding. The fear is no longer a vague anxiety, it has a name and a location. A filthy room near the tanneries, a place where angels are made. You look at Piccolino, sleeping in his cradle, an image of serene, well cared for innocence. He is not the enemy. The old woman in your dream is not the enemy. The enemy is the entire, monstrous system that creates a world where one child's nursery can only exist if it's built upon the foundations of another child's potential grave. The legend of the angel makers is not just a scary story whispered by maids. It is the logical, brutal endpoint of the choice you were forced to make. And the possibility that your daughter is heading towards such a fate is a horror too vast to comprehend. The fear ignited by the whispers at baby farms transforms into a quiet, cold panic that hums beneath your skin at all hours. You begin to watch Piccolino with a new, desperate intensity. His health is no longer just your duty, it has become a strained, superstitious barometer for your own daughter's survival. If he thrives, you allow yourself a sliver of hope that she might be too. If he has a day of colic or cries more than usual, your mind plunges into despair. It is in this heightened state of anxiety that the physician makes one of his periodic visits. His arrival is always announced beforehand, sending a ripple of nervous energy through the nursery. You must ensure the room is immaculate, the baby freshly changed, and you yourself must be the picture of serene, robust health. He enters the room with his usual air of unassailable authority, followed by a nervous-looking Signor Viola. He barely acknowledges you with a nod before turning his full attention to the air. He unwraps the swaddling clothes with practiced hands, examining the baby's skin, his limbs, the clarity of his eyes. He listens to his breathing, pressing a cool ear against the baby's chest. "Excellent," he pronounces, his voice resonating in the quiet room. The boy is thriving, a testament to a quality constitution and adequate nursing. He says it as if Piccolino's good health is primarily a result of his own noble bloodline, with you as a contributing, but secondary, factor. Then, he turns his gaze to you, and for the first time, his look is not one of cursory dismissal. It is a sharp, penetrating, clinical stare, and the source of this excellent nourishment, he says, more to himself than to you. "Let us inspect the vessel." Signor Viola gestures for you to sit in the velvet chair. The physician approaches, and your heart begins to pound. This is different from his previous visits. This is a formal examination. You feel a surge of humiliation. You are not a patient being cared for, you're a piece of machinery being checked for defects. He asks you to unlace your bodice. You comply, your fingers clumsy, your eyes fixed on a point on the far wall. You feel exposed, vulnerable, your personhood stripped away until only your biological function remains. He doesn't touch you. Instead, he observes you from a small distance. His eyes narrowed in concentration. The flesh is firm. He notes to Signora Viola. The color is good. No signs of fever or rash. Then he asks you a series of questions, his tone cold and impersonal, about your diet, your sleep, your daily walks in the garden. You answer in a quiet, respectful monotone. Finally, he says, "Show me your hands." You hold them out, palms up. They are your peasant's hands, still bearing the faint caruses of a life of physical labor, but softened by weeks of relative idleness. He leans in closer to inspect them. Good. The nails are clean. The skin is not jaundiced. He straightens up, a flicker of something unreadable in his eyes. There are, of course, other ways to judge the quality of the milk. Some physicians still taste it themselves, by foolish practice, and jagofenic. Others will express a drop into water, to see if it holds its form. A slightly better method. He pauses, and you hold your breath. But I find the most reliable indicator is the nurse herself, her temperament, her honesty. He looks you directly in the eye. You have not been ill, no fevers in the night, no secret sorrows that might curdle the milk. The question is a dagger. No secret sorrows. He is probing for the one thing you are trying desperately to hide. Does he suspect has your carefully constructed mask of serenity slipped? You feel a flush of heat rise up your neck. This is a moment of intense psychological warfare. And it's a tactic that medical men of the era, who saw themselves as masters of human nature, would have employed. The idea that a lie or a hidden grief could physically alter the body and its products was a deeply ingrained part of their medical philosophy. He is testing your composure, believing that any flicker of fear or sadness in your eyes would be a confession of your milk's impurity. You meet his gaze, your mind racing. You summon every ounce of strength you have. You think of your daughter, of the silver coins you are earning, of the abyss that awaits if you fail. You force your expression to remain neutral, even placid. I am in good health, sir, you say, your voice steadier than you thought possible, and I have no sorrows here. The Lord de Rossi and his family have been most generous. It is a perfect, calculated lie. The physician holds your gaze for a beat longer, then gives a single, Satisfied nod. Very good, he says, turning back to Signora Viola. The choice was a sound one. She will continue to provide excellent service. He gives some final instructions about adding more boiled meats to your diet and then sweeps out of the room, leaving a trail of clothes and authority in his wake. You finally exhale, a silky, silent breath. You quickly lace up your bodice, your hands trembling with the aftermath of the ordeal. You have passed the inspection. The vessel has been deemed sound. But the encounter leaves you deeply shaken. The physician's cold, methodical examination was a stark reminder of your status in this house. You are not a caregiver. You are not a foster mother. You are a biological resource, a vessel to be monitored, managed, and maintained for optimal performance. His questions about your secret sorrows have shown you how precarious your position really is. Your grief is not just a personal burden, it is a professional liability, a potential contaminant that could get you dismissed. You look down at your own hands, the hands he inspected. They feel like they belong to someone else. You are becoming a stranger to yourself, hollowed out and filled with the single-minded purpose of survival. The inspection is over, but the feeling of being watched, judged, and measured will never leave you. Under your diligent, if tormented, tear, the derisier flourishes. Piccolino is the very model of a thriving infant, a living testament to the quality of the product you are providing. He grows visibly week by week, his limbs losing their newborn fragility and taking on a satisfying, dimpled plumpness. His wispy blonde hair begins to thicken, and his eyes, once the unfocused blue of all newborns, are starting to settle into a deep, intelligent brown. His progress becomes a source of public pride within the household. When Lord de Ross's business associates or Lady Eleanor's noble friends visit, the baby is often brought out for presentation, like a prized artifact. You are the one who carries him, dressed in your clean, green uniform. You present the gurgling, healthy infant for admiration. What a fine boy, they exclaim, so robust, they true hair. And then, inevitably, their eyes turn to you. And this must be the nurse. You have done a wonderful job. The de Rosses were wise in their choice. You murmur your thanks, your eyes downcast, a perfect portrait of humble, devoted service. These moments are surreal. You are being praised for your success in a task that is simultaneously breaking your heart. Each compliment on Piccolino's rosy cheeks feels like a comment on your own daughter's thinness. His health is the currency you are paid in, but it is also a constant, visual reminder of the debt your own child is incurring. This public display of the wet nurse and her charge was a common social ritual. It served several purposes. For the family, it was a way to display their wealth and their healthy air, reinforcing their social standing. For the guests, it was a way to affirm the wisdom and status of their hosts. For you, the nurse, it is part of the job description. You are the backdrop to the baby's splendor, the living proof of the family's good judgment. As Piccolino grows, he begins to develop a distinct personality. He is a common, curious baby. He watches you with an intense, searching gaze as you feed him. He learns to smile, a real, deliberate smile that makes his whole face light up, and it is almost always directed at you. You are the center of his universe, the face he sees most, the arms that hold him, the voice that soothes him. One afternoon, as you are sitting in the velvet chair by the fire, feeding him, he stops suckling. He pulls back slightly, looks directly into your eyes, and then reaches up a small, chubby hand and touches your cheek. It is a soft, deliberate gesture of connection, a moment of pure, uncomplicated affection. And in that moment, your carefully constructed walls crumble. A wave of tenderness, so powerful it makes you gasp, washes over you. It's not the fierce, primal love you have for your daughter. It's something else, a gentle, sorrowful affection for this innocent child who is so completely dependent on you, who loves you without condition. You are his mother, in every way that matters to him right now. This is the great, unspoken complication of wet nursing that official histories often miss. It was not always a simple commercial transaction. Deep, genuine bonds of love frequently formed between nurse and charge. Many children loved their nurses more than their own mothers and carried that affection throughout their lives. The famous French philosopher Jean-Jacques Rousseau, who later campaigned fiercely against the practice of wet nursing, was himself sent to a wet nurse and wrote about the confusion and pain of being separated from her when he was weaned. You find yourself falling into a dangerous emotional trap. This child's affection is a balm on your wounded heart. His smiles are a brief respite from your constant anxiety. Loving him is easier than living with the void inside you. But you know this bond is temporary. You are a placeholder, a substitute. To love him is to set yourself up for another heartbreak. Beatrice's words echo in your mind. She loved him like her own. Broke her heart. It did. Lady Eleanor's visits to the nursery become slightly more frequent, though they remain brief and formal. She watches you interact with her son, a strange, unreadable expression on her face. Is it relief, gratitude, or is it a flicker of jealousy at the easy intimacy you share with her child? An intimacy she herself seems incapable of or unwilling to foster. You see her watch as Piccolino's eyes follow you around the room. You see the way he quiets instantly when you pick him up. You are his comfort, his security. She is a beautiful, perfumed stranger. The healthier Piccolino gets, the more your value to the household is affirmed. You are a success story. A walking advertisement for the system of outsourced motherhood. The lord and lady are pleased. The physician is smug. The servants are envious. No one sees the tragic irony at the heart of your success. No one knows that every gurgle of contentment from the de-Rossi air is a countdown timer on the life of your own daughter. You are nurturing a beautiful, healthy tree, but its roots are drawing the life from another, more fragile sapling. Far away, and no one but you can see the other tree withering. The news arrives on a Tuesday. You know it's a Tuesday because that's the day the fine linens are collected for the laundry. It's a day like any other, grey and cool. You are on the floor, on the sick rug, playing with Piccolino. He has recently discovered his own feet, a source of endless fascination for him. He lies on his back, gurgling with delight as he tries to stuff his toes into his mouth. You are smiling, a genuine, unforced smile. In these small moments, the crushing weight of your anxiety can briefly lift, allowing for a sliver of simple joy. There is a soft knock on the nursery door. You expect it to be Sophia, the maid, coming for the linen basket. Come in, you call out, not to look from the happy baby. But the footsteps that enter are not Sophia's light, quick steps. They are heavy, slow, hesitant, and they are male. You look up, your smile freezing on your face. Standing in the doorway is a man from your village. His name is Matteo. He is a carter, a man who occasionally hauls goods to the city. His face is weathered and kind, and right now, it is etched with a profound and terrible pity. He holds his dusty cap in his hands, twisting the brim nervously. He doesn't belong here. His rough-spun clothes and menorcate boots are an intrusion from a world you have tried to keep at bay. The sight of him, a ghost from your real life, tells you everything before he even speaks. The blood drains from your face. The air in the room becomes thick and hard to breathe. The sound of Piccolino's happy gurgling fades into a distant buzz. Matteo, you whisper, your voice a thread. I saw your husband at the market. He begins, his voice low and rough. He won't meet your eyes. He is staring at the floor. He asked me to find you, to bring you word. He pauses, and the silence that fills the grand room is the silence of a grave. The little one, he says, finally forcing the words out. She is with God now. Her suffering is over. Her suffering is over. The phrase is meant to be a comfort, a standard euphemism for death used by people who have seen too much of it. But to you, it is a confirmation of the one thing you feared most. She suffered. She didn't just pass peacefully in her sleep. There was a period of suffering that has now, finally, ended. Your mind refuses to work. It's like a stalled engine. No, it's a mistake. HES talking about someone else. Your daughter is staying. Yes, but she is a fighter. You picture her face, but the image is blurry, indistinct. Mateo, seeing the denial and horror in your expression, adds softly, "It was a wasting sickness." The midwife said, "There was nothing to be done. It was peaceful at the end. A wasting sickness, malnutrition, starvation. He is giving a name to your failure." You feel a strange, chilling detachment, as if you are floating above your own body, watching a scene unfold. You watch yourself get slowly to your feet. You watch your hand go to the door frame to steady yourself. You hear a high-pitched ringing in your ears. Then the guilt hits. A physical blow that knocks the air from your lungs. My milk could have saved her. The thought is a white-hot brand on your soul. While you were here, growing plump on the master's chicken and brewing rich, nourishing milk for this healthy, golden-haired boy on the floor, your own child was wasting away. You traded her life for a handful of silver coins and a warm bed. A darker thought, a venomous whisper, slithers into your mind. Was it just a wasting sickness? You remember the maids whispering about angel makers. And you remember another term, a more common one overlaying. A mother, exhausted, sleeping in the same bed as her infant, could accidentally roll over and suffocate the child. It was often ruled an accident, an act of God, but everyone knew it could also be a desperate, untraceable act of mercy for a child who was already starving. A way to end the suffering. Did your sister, overwhelmed and heartbroken, make that terrible choice? The uncertainty is another layer of hell. Historians will debate the frequency of such covert infanticide. But for you, in this moment, the possibility is terrifyingly real. Piccolino, sensing the sudden, terrible shift in the room's atmosphere, begins to fuss. His happy gurgles turn into a small, questioning cry. The sound snaps you back to reality. You are not just a grieving mother. You are the nurse. You are in the De Rossi nursery. You have a job to do, and your primary rule is no secret sorrows. Your grief is a fire that could burn down your entire, precarious existence. You turn back to Mateo. You force your face into a mask of stoic acceptance. It is the hardest performance of your life. Thank you for bringing me the news. Mateo, you say, and your voice is a dead, flat thing. It is God's will. He nods, relieved to be released from his terrible duty. He murmurs a condolence and backs out of the room, closing the door softly behind him. You are alone. The news is delivered. The connection is severed. Your daughter is gone. You stand frozen for a long moment, the world tilting on its axis. Then, you turn and look at Piccolino. He is crying now, his little face red, his arms reaching for you. He needs to be fed. Your body moves on autopilot. You walk over to him. You pick him up. His body is warm, solid, and so terribly, wonderfully alive. You carry him to the velvet chair and sit down. You unlace your bodice. He latches on, his cries immediately quieting into soft, contented suckling sounds. The milk comes. Your body, unaware or uncaring of the news your mind has just received, performs its duty. It produces the rich, life-giving fluid. But it's for the wrong child. It's too late. You stare sightlessly out the window as the stranger's child drinks the milk that should have been hers. There are no tears. There is only a vast, silent, hollow space inside you where your heart used to be. The world doesn't stop. The great house continues its daily rhythm, indifferent to the silent catastrophe that has just occurred in your soul. The clock chimes. The cooks prepare the evening meal. The maids gossip in the halls. And you continue to be the nurse. The day after Mateo's visit is the hardest of your life. Every action is a monumental effort of will. You have to force yourself to get out of bed. to wash your face, to put on the green uniform. You move through your duties like a ghost, an automaton performing a series of memorized tasks. Pick up the baby, change the baby, feed the baby, rock the baby. Your grief is a physical presence. It's a lead weight in your stomach, a tightness in your throat that makes it hard to breathe, a thick fog in your head that muffles all sound, but you cannot show it. You are an actress in the most demanding role imaginable, a serene caregiver whose own child has just died. You catch your reflection in the polished surface of a silver water pitcher. The face that stares back is a stranger's. It's a pale, blank mask, the eyes wide and empty. You have perfected the art of placidity. You have become the compound that Signora Viola and the physician demanded. But beneath the still surface, the world is drowned. When Sophia brings your lunch tray, she chatters about some scandal involving a footman and a visiting lady's maid. You nod and make a small sound of acknowledgement. But her words are just noise. She looks at you, a slight frown on her face. Are you feeling all right? Nurse, you're very pale. Just a little tired. You say, your voice perfectly even. The baby was restless last night. It's a plausible lie, a safe excuse. To tell the truth would be unthinkable. What would they do? Fire you for having a secret sorrow? Send you away now that your grief might poison the milk? You cannot risk it. You need the money now more than ever. For your husband, for the funeral, for the crushing weight of a future that now seems bleak and empty. The irony is a blade that twists in your gut. You must hide the grief for the child whose life was sacrificed for this very job. Her death must be as secret as your sorrow. This suppression of grief is a historically complex issue. While public and ritualized mourning was common, the private, internal experience of it, especially for someone in your position, is lost to history. Scholars can only speculate, based on social strictures and psychological principles, about the immense toll such emotional labor must have taken. It's one thing to grieve, it's another to be forbidden from grieving. To have to pretend that the ground has not just crumbled beneath your feet. Your interactions with Piccolino become a source of both profound pain and strange comfort. Every time you look at his healthy, thriving body, it's a stab to the heart. He is a living monument to your loss. He is everything your daughter was not allowed to be. A bitter, resentful part of you wants to pull away, to treat him with cold efficiency. But you can't. He is innocent. And he is the only source of human warmth in your desolate world. When he smiles at you, his whole face crinkling with joy, it is a tiny pinprick of light in an infinite darkness. When he falls asleep in your arms, his small body heavy with trust, you feel a flicker of purpose. He needs you. His need is a lifeline, the only thing keeping you from dissolving completely into your grief. One afternoon, you were humming a lullaby to him, a simple, mournful tune from your village. It's a song your own mother sang to you. As the notes leave your lips, you realize with a jolt that you are singing your daughter's funeral dirge to the child who, in a way, replaced her. The realization is so horrific that the melody catches in your throat. You stop, choking back a wave of nausea. Piccolino, disturbed by the sudden silence, opens his eyes and looks at you, a small frown on his face. You force yourself to start humming again, but the notes are hollow, meaningless. You find yourself doing something peculiar. You have the small, smooth white stone you once tried to tuck into your daughter's swaddling clothes. You had kept it, a useless, forgotten talisman. Now, you hold it in your hand while you feed Piccolino. You press its cool, smooth surface into your palm. A sacred, physical anchor to your loss. It is an act of hidden mourning, a way of being with your daughter in spirit while you hold this other child in your arms. It's a small, pathetic rebellion, but it's all you have. You have to smile at Signora Viola. You have to answer the physician's questions with calm deference. You have to play with Piccolino and praise his new accomplishments. You have to continue being the perfect wet nurse, the placid vessel, the success story of the De Rossi household. But beneath the smile, you are meticulously planning a funeral. In your mind, You see the small grave in the churchyard. You choose the wildflowers to lay on it. You hear the priest's words. You are living to live the visible, public life of a servant, and the secret, internal life of a bereaved mother, and the effort of keeping them separate, of hiding the all-consuming grief behind a mask of smiling competence, is the most exhausting work you have ever done. The grief, denied any natural outlet, begins to fester. It coalesces into a quiet, cold rage. I rage against the Derosses, with their casual wealth and their manufactured concerns. I rage against the physician, with his arrogant pronouncements and his clinical cruelty. I rage against your husband, for his desperate pragmatism. I rage against yourself, for agreeing to this devil's bargain, and rage against the entire, monstrous system that grinds up girls like you and babies like yours to keep its gears turning. But your rage is impotent. You are powerless. To express it openly would be self-destructive. So it turns inward, seeking small, secret channels of release. You begin a campaign of microscopic rebellion, a series of tiny, invisible acts of protest that no one else would ever notice, but which, to you, feel like reclaiming a tiny sliver of your own soul. Your rebellion starts with the food. The physician has prescribed a bland, pure diet for you: boiled chicken, soft bread, retail, no spices, no strong flavors, nothing that could excite the humors and taint the milk. No. When Beatrice the cook smuggles you a forbidden clove of garlic or a piece of sharp cheese, you accept it with a fierce, secret joy. You eat it in the dead of night, chewing slowly, savoring the strong, forbidden flavor. It's a tiny act of defiance against the physician's control over your body. You are taking back your own palate. Each bite is a whisper that says, "This body is still mine." This fear of flavored milk, while exaggerated, was not entirely without basis. A mother's diet can subtly influence the taste of her milk, and modern science suggests this might even help a baby adapt to the family's cuisine later in life. But for you, defying the dietary restrictions is not about science. It's about agency. It's a symbolic act. Whether the garlic actually affects the milk is irrelevant. The point is that you are making a choice, asserting your will in a world that has tried to erase it. Your protest extends to the rigid schedule. You are supposed to walk in the garden for precisely 30 minutes each afternoon. No, you find ways to linger for an extra 5 minutes, hiding in the shade of a large cypress tree where you are not visible from the house windows. You stand there, breathing in the scent of damp earth, feeling the sun on your face. And for those 5 minutes, you are not the nurse. You are just a woman, standing on the grass. It is a theft of time, a small embezzlement from your employers. Your most personal rebellion involves the lullabies. You are supposed to sing sweet, simple songs. Instead, you begin to hum the tunes of your village's most rebellious folk songs. They are songs of poaching, of tricking the tax collector, of lovers defying their families. The lyrics remain unspoken, a silent scream in your mind, but the melodies themselves are a secret descent. As you rock the Derossi heir to sleep, you are filling his dreams with the music of defiance. It is a deeply personal, ironic act of subversion. Perhaps your boldest, most dangerous act of protest involves Lady Eleonora. She has started to make more frequent, though still brief, visits to the nursery. She seems to be trying, in her own awkward way, to form a connection with her son. She will bring him a small, carved toy or a silver rattle. One afternoon, she is in the nursery as you are preparing to feed Piccolino. He is fussy, reaching for you, his true source of comfort. Lady Eleonora watches, a flicker of that familiar jealousy in her eyes. "Give him to me," she says suddenly. "I will hold him while you prepare." Normally, you would comply instantly, but today, your cold rage gives you a sliver of courage. You hold on to Piccolino for a beat too long. You look directly at Lady Eleonora, not with insolence, but with a calm, steady gaze. He settles best with me, my lady, you say, your voice quiet but firm. It is better for his digestion if he is not agitated before feeding. You have used their untwisted logic against them. You have taken the physician's pronouncements about agitation and humours and turned them into a shield for yourself and a weapon against her. Lady Eleonora is taken aback. She is not used to being contradicted, however politely. A flush of colour rises in her cheeks. For a moment, you think you have gone too far. You expect a furious outburst, a call for Signora Viola. But instead, she simply deflates. She looks from your calm face to her crying son, who is still reaching for you. She sees the undeniable truth: the baby wants you, not her. She gives a small, defeated nod and steps back. You have won. It's a tiny, hollow victory, but it's a victory nonetheless. You have asserted your maternal authority, an authority born of intimacy and care, over her biological and social authority. You have, for a fleeting moment, turned the tables. These small acts of resistance do not change your situation. They do not bring your daughter back. They do not alleviate your grief, but they are essential for your survival. They are a way of asserting that even though your body has been commodified, your will has not been completely extinguished. You are not just a passive vessel. You are not just a machine. You are a grieving, angry mother. And in these silent, invisible ways, you are fighting back. The seasons turn. The oppressive heat of summer gives way to the crisp, golden night of autumn, and then to the stark, grey chill of winter. The tapestries on the nursery walls are your only unchanging landscape. Piccolino is no longer a helpless infant. He is a small, energetic boy. He can sit up on his own, his back straight and strong. He can crawl with surprising speed across the thick rug, his laughter echoing in the large room. He has two small, white teeth at the bottom of his mouth, sharp as tiny pearls. And with the appearance of those teeth comes the inevitable, unspoken knowledge your time here is coming to an end. The process of weaning marks the final stage of your employment. It's a transition that is carefully managed by the physician and Signora Viola. The conversations about it happen just outside your hearing. A low murmur of voices in the hallway, but you know what they are discussing. They are planning your obsolescence. The weaning begins gradually. At first, you are instructed to supplement one feeding a day with a small bowl of pan-ada, a soft, sweet mush made from breadcrumbs boiled in broth or milk, sometimes with a little sugar or butter. It's the traditional first solid food for wealthy infants. You are the one who has to feed it to him, spooning the warm, soft paste into his mouth. He doesn't like it at first. He turns his head away, his face puckered in distaste, and cries for the familiar comfort of your breast. A cruel, vindictive part of you is pleased by his rejection of the substitute. It's a validation of your bond, a confirmation that you are not so easily replaced. But you must follow your orders. You coax him. You make encouraging sounds. And eventually, he learns to accept the spoon. This process of introducing solids was, historically, a perilous time for infants. Without modern knowledge of sterilization and nutrition, these supplementary foods could often introduce bacteria or lack essential vitamins, leading to illness. The debate over the proper age and method for weaning raged among physicians for centuries, with some advocating for abrupt weaning and others, like the one being practiced here, for a more gradual approach. As the weeks go by, more of your feedings are replaced by meals of pan-ada, mashed vegetables, or soft cooked teggio. The physical intimacy that has defined your relationship with Piccolino begins to wane. There are fewer moments of quiet communion, of him resting against your heart. Your interactions become more practical, more supervisory. You are transitioning from a milk mother to a simple caregiver. The physiological changes in your own body are a constant, melancholy reminder of the coming separation. As the demand for your milk lessens, so does the supply. The familiar feeling of fullness is gone, replaced by a strange lightness, an emptiness that mirrors the one in your heart. Your body is slowly forgetting its purpose, shutting down the factory. It's a quiet, internal process of decommissioning. Piccolino, adaptable as all children are, begins to thrive on his new diet. He grows taller, stronger. He is starting to form his first words, his favorite. A sound that is both a joy and a knife to your heart. Is Nana. Not Mama, but Nana. It is his name for you. One evening, Lady Eleonora comes to the nursery. She is no longer a nervous ghost, but a more confident presence. As the physical bond between you and her son has lessened, theirs has grown. She now plays with him on the floor, laughing as he crawls into her lap. She is finally becoming his mother, and you are being gently, methodically, pushed to the margins. Tonight, she is watching as you give Piccolino his final spoonful of supper. The physician says he is ready. She says, her voice cool and steady, he is strong enough now. Tomorrow will be his last day at the breast. The words are a formal declaration of your dismissal. The end date has been set. You simply nod, your eyes fixed on the boy in the high chair. You had known it was coming, but the finality of it is still a shock. Tomorrow. A strange mix of emotions swirls inside you. There is the familiar, deep ache of another impending loss. This boy, this stranger's child, has become a part of your life, a focus for your days, a recipient of the love that had nowhere else to go. The thought of leaving him is a genuine sorrow, but there is also a flicker of something else, relief. Relief from the constant performance, from the suffocating loneliness, from living inside a beautiful lie. The end of your service means the end of your imprisonment. You can finally go home. But what is home now? It's a cold cottage in the tiny, unmarked grave in the churchyard. Later that night, you give Piccolino his very last feeding. He is sleepy, his eyelids already drooping. He suckles for a few minutes. More for comfort than for hunger, his small hand resting on your chest. You memorize everything about this moment, the weight of his head in the crook of your arm, the soft sound of his breathing, the way his fingers curl around yours. It is a quiet, sad farewell to the one thing that has given your life structure and a strange, painful kind of meaning for the past year. When he is finished, you don't put him straight into his cradle. You hold him for a long time, rocking him gently in the firelight, humming a lullaby. Not a song of rebellion this time, that the mantra, simpleton your mother sang to you, the one you think of as your daughter's song. It feels right. No, at the end, it is a lament for all that has been lost, for your daughter, for this boy you are about to leave, and for yourself. The weaning is almost complete. Your purpose in this house has been served. The next morning, the finality begins. You wake up not to the cry of a hungry baby, but to an unnerving silence. When Piccolino stirs, it is Signora Viola who goes to him, lifting him from the cradle with a practiced efficiency. She speaks to him in a clipped, no-nonsense tone and hands him a wooden toy to distract him. Your role as his primary comforter has been officially revoked. You are instructed to dress in your own clothes, the rough, patched wool dress you arrived in. It feels foreign against your skin after a year of wearing the softer uniform. It smells faintly of wood smoke and earth, a scent of the life you left behind. Changing back into it is a symbolic act of demotion. You are no longer the nurse. You are once again the peasant girl from the country. Later in the morning, you are summoned to the master's study. It's a room you have never entered, the heart of the household's power. The walls are lined with leather-bound books you cannot read. A massive oak desk dominates the room, and behind it sits Lord de Rossi. He is an imposing man with a severe expression, his wealth and authority worn like a heavy cloak. Lady Eleonora stands beside him, her face serene and unreadable. Signora Viola stands near the door, a silent sentinel. You enter and give a deep curtsy, your eyes fixed on the floor. The thick carpet muffles all sound. You have served this family well. Lord de Rossi says, his voice a lull, formal rumble. It is not a compliment, it is a statement of fact, the closing line of a business transaction. The air is strong and healthy, a credit to your Diligence. He gestures to a small, heavy-looking leather pouch on the desk. This is your final payment, as agreed, and a small bonus for your satisfactory service. Signora Viola steps forward, picks up the pouch, and places it in your hands. The weight of it is shocking. It's heavy, solid, real. You can feel the individual shapes of the coins through the soft leather. This is it. This is what it was all for. This is the price of your milk, your time, your emotional labor. This is the price of your daughter's life. You clutch the bag, your knuckles white. The coins inside feel both scorching hot and ice cold. You want to throw it at their feet, to scream at them, to tell them what this money truly cost, but you do nothing. You murmur, "Thank you, my lord, my lady." Your voice is a dry whisper. This final payment was a critical part of the wet nursing contract. The amount varied wildly based on the family's wealth and the nurse's reputation. For a poor family, this lump sum could be transformative, enough to buy land, livestock, or set up a small business. It was the great prize, the justification for the entire sacrifice. But the emotional cost, the psychological trauma, was never entered into the ledger. Historians can track the financial transactions, but they can never quantify the grief contained within a pouch of silver coins. You will be escorted back to your village this afternoon. Lord de Rossi continues, his tone indicating that the audience is over. Signora Viola will see to the arrangements. You curtsy again and back out of the room, Signora Viola following you. You are not allowed to say goodbye to Piccolino. A clean break is deemed best, to avoid any emotional scenes that might upset the child. You catch one last glimpse of him through the open nursery door as you are led down the corridor. He is sitting on the floor, playing with his mother. He doesn't even look up. You are already a ghost to him. You are given a small parcel of bread and cheese for the journey. Beatrice, the cook, presses your hand as she gives it to you, her eyes full of a sad, knowing pity. It's the only genuine farewell you receive. You are put in the back of the same kind of cart that brought you here, driven by a surly stable hand who doesn't speak a word to you. As the cart rattles through the great iron gates and back onto the city streets, you don't look back. There is nothing to look back for. You sit numbly, clutching the heavy pouch in your lap. You loosen the drawstring and look inside. It's full of silver coins. More money than you have ever seen in your life. It glints dully in the grey afternoon light. It is a fortune. It is a tragedy. It is a bag of metal circles that can never, ever fill the gaping hole that has been carved into your life. The cart leaves the noisy city behind, and the familiar landscape of the countryside begins to unfold. The sight of the fields and trees, which you once longed for, brings no comfort. It all looks alien, changed, because you are changed. You are no longer the naive young mother who traveled this road in the other direction. You are a different person now, hollowed out and haunted. You are a woman who got exactly what she was promised, and lost everything that mattered. The bag of silver is not a reward. It is a brand, a permanent mark of the bargain you made and the price you paid. The journey home is a journey through a landscape of ghosts. Every familiar landmark, the crooked oak tree, the old stone bridge over the creek, the distant spire of the village church is layered with a memory of the person you used to be. You remember walking this path with your husband, your hand in his. You remember dreaming of the child growing inside you. That world feels 1,000 years away. A story about someone else. The cart drops you at the edge of the hamlet and trundles away without a backward glance, leaving you in a cloud of dust and an overwhelming silence. The silence of the countryside is no longer peaceful. It's empty. It's the sound of absence. You walk the final stretch to your cottage on foot. The bag of coins are heavy, awkward weight in your hand. You see a few familiar faces. They stop and stare. Their expressions are a mixture of curiosity, oh, and pity. They see your clean clothes, the bag of money. They know you are back from the city, from the great house. They also know that you are returning to a home that has been visited by death. They murmur greetings, but no one knows what to say to you. You are an object of both envy and sorrow, a walking contradiction. You reach the cottage. It looks smaller, taller than you remember. The thatch on the roof is thin. The dubbed wattle walls are crumbling at the edges. But the most jarring change is the silence. There is no sound from within. You push open the door. The air inside is stale and cold. The fire in the hearth is dead. Your husband is sitting on a stool, his back to the door, staring at the empty fireplace. He is whittling a piece of wood, but his hands are still. He doesn't turn around when you enter, but you know he has heard you. You stand in the doorway, the bag of coins still in your hand. The space between you is filled with a year of unshared experiences, of unspoken grief. "I'm home," you say, and the words are small and inadequate. He turns around slowly. His face looks older, etched with new lines of sorrow and weariness. He looks at you, then at the pouch in your hand, and then back at your face. His expression is unreadable. Is it relief, resentment, guilt? You walk forward and place the bag on the rough wooden table between you. It lands with a heavy, definitive thud. The sound of will, the sound of loss. "It's all there," you say, and no. He reaches out a hand and touches the leather, but he doesn't open it. He just rests his hand on it, as if trying to feel the weight of the sacrifice it represents. "We can buy the miller's field now," he says, his voice flat. "And 2 cows." This was the dream, the goal, the justification for everything. But hearing the words spoken aloud in this cold, silent room, they sound hollow, meaningless. "A field and 2 cows. A fair trade for a child." The question hangs in the air, a poisonous, unspoken accusation. This moment is the culmination of the immense pressure placed on men and women in your time. Your husband's focus on the economic gain is not necessarily a sign of callousness, but a reflection of his own desperate role in the family's survival. For him, providing security was the primary expression of fatherly and husbandly duty. He is likely wrestling with his own profound guilt, and focusing on the material outcome is the only way he knows how to cope. Historians often debate the emotional lives of men in pre-modern times, but it is moments like this of profound, shared, yet unspoken grief that hint at a rich and painful inner world hidden beneath a stoic exterior. You look around the small, one-room cottage. You see the corner where your mattress lies. You see the empty space where a cradle should have been. There is nothing left of her here. No clothes, no blankets. It's as if she never existed. It's a well-intentioned, that brutal, irrational. They have tried to remove all reminders of the pain, but in doing so, they have erased her. "Where are her things?" you ask. Your voice barely a whisper. Your husband flinches. "Your sister took them. We thought that would be easier for you." Easier. The word is a dagger. They think your grief can be managed by tidying it away. You sink onto the other stool, the energy draining out of you. You are home. But it doesn't feel like home. It feels like a tomb, a monument to a failed bargain. You have spent a year in a world of silk and silver, a world of complex rules and strange beliefs. You have learned to be an actress, to hide your true feelings behind a mask of serenity. You have survived. You have returned with the prize. But as you sit in the crushing silence of your own cottage, across the table from your husband, with the bag of blood money between you, you have never felt more alone or more impoverished. The house is empty. The cradle is gone, and the silence is the only thing left. In the days that follow your return, you and your husband move around each other in a careful, silent dance of shared but unexpressed grief. He is busy with the coins, negotiating for the field, inspecting livestock. He throws himself into the practical application of your earnings, his way of proving that the sacrifice was not in vain. He talks of the future, of good harvests and security. He never speaks her name. You exist in a fog, The routines of village life, which you once knew so well, feel strange and pointless. You help with the mending, the cooking, the small chores, but your hands move without your mind's direction. Your thoughts are consumed by a single, burning question, one that you couldn't allow yourself to fully consider while you were in the De Rossi house. Why? Why did she do it? Why did Lady Eleonora, who had every resource, every comfort, refuse to feed her own child? In the nursery, you had accepted the official reasons: her delicate health, the physician's advice, the social duties, but now, removed from that environment, those reasons seem thin and transparent. They are excuses, not explanations. Your grief, no longer needing to be suppressed, sharpens your mind. You begin to see the system not just from the inside, as a participant, but from the outside, as a critic. You start to piece together a more truthful picture from the fragments you gathered. You remember the way Lady Eleonora looked at her own body, with a kind of detached dissatisfaction. You remember the endless talk among the maids about the upcoming balls and social events, the importance of her appearance, the fittings for new gowns, and you realize the first, and perhaps most powerful, reason: vanity. Breastfeeding was believed to ruin a noble woman's figure. It made the breasts sag, the body coarse. In a world where a high-born woman's value was so tightly bound to her beauty and her ability to be a flawless ornament for her husband's lineage, preserving her figure was not just vanity, it was a matter of preserving her status. Your functional, peasant body was a tool. Her aristocratic body was a work of art, not to be spoiled by the messy, animalistic business of nursing. Then you think of her social calendar, the endless cycle of dinners, parties, and visits. Breastfeeding is demanding and unpredictable. It tethers a mother to her infant, making it impossible to be away for more than a few hours. By hiring you, Lady Eleonora wasn't just delegating a chore, she was buying her freedom. Freedom from the physical constraints of motherhood. Freedom to maintain her central role in the intricate social web of the aristocracy. Your imprisonment was the price of her liberty. And what about the most pervasive reason? The once sanctioned by the physician, the idea that her milk was too thin or too weak, that she was too refined to produce adequate nourishment. You now see this for what it truly was: a medical justification for a social choice. It was a convenient, scientific-sounding myth that allowed the wealthy to feel that they were not just making a selfish choice, but were acting in their child's best interest. They told themselves a story where the robust, earthy milk of a peasant woman was superior, a magical elixir that their own anemic, aristocratic bodies couldn't produce. This belief system is a fascinating subject for historians, who see it as a perfect storm of social prejudice and medical ignorance. It created a narrative where the lower-class woman's body was seen as more primitive, more animal-like, and therefore, paradoxically, better suited for the animal function of lactation. It was classism disguised as science. One afternoon, you are sitting outside the cottage, listlessly mending a shirt. Your sister comes to visit. She sits with you. And for a long time, neither of you speaks. She was the one who held your daughter as she faded. She is the keeper of the memories you do not have. Finally, she speaks, her voice choked with the guilt of her own. "I did my best," she whispers. "I swear I did." You look at her own thin, weary face, and you feel no anger towards her. Only a shared, profound sorrow. "I know," you say. Then, you ask her the question that has been haunting you. If you had a son, and you were a grand lady, would you give him to another woman to feed? Your sister looks at you, shocked. The question is so far beyond the realm of her reality, but she thinks about it. "Never," she says, her voice fierce. "He is a part of me. How could I let a stranger have that, to have him know her smell, her touch, instead of mine?" Her simple, instinctual answer is the final piece of the puzzle. It cuts through all the complex justifications of the nobility. Her answer comes from the heart, not from a physician's manual or a social calendar. You finally understand. Lady Eleonora's choice was not born of necessity. It was born of privilege, the privilege to treat motherhood as a series of choices, rather than a biological imperative. The privilege to separate the parts she liked producing in air, dressing him in fine clothes from the parts she found inconvenient or distasteful. You never had that choice. Your body and its functions were a matter of survival, first for your own child, and then as a commodity to ensure the survival of your family. For Lady Eleonora, her body was a matter of aesthetics, and in the chasm between those two realities, your daughter was lost. The purchase of the miller's field is finalized. Your husband comes home one evening, his face flushed with a mixture of pride and exhaustion, and announces that the land is now yours. You own a piece of the earth. You are no longer just scraping by, you are landowners, a status of security and respect in the village. This should be a moment of triumph. Instead, it feels like the final shovel of dirt on your daughter's grave. As you stand with your husband at the edge of your new property, looking out over the stubble fallow ground, you see other women from the village. You see them with their own children, a toddler clinging to a skirt, an infant held tight in a sling. You watch them, and for the first time, you see your own story reflected in their tired eyes and their work-worn hands. You start to listen more closely to the stories shared in the village square, at the well, over the low stone walls that separate your lives, and you begin to realize that your tragedy, while deeply personal, is not unique. It is a single thread in a vast, tragic tapestry. You learn of another woman, from a hamlet of valleys over, who served as a wet nurse in the same city you did. She, too, came back with a bag of coins, and she, too, came back to an empty cradle. Her story is whispered with a mixture of pity and a strange, cautionary respect. She is another veteran of the same quiet war. You hear an older woman tell a story from her youth, about her own cousin who had twins. A cruel stroke of luck, unable to feed two. Then with no family able to help, she was forced to make an impossible choice. She kept the boy and gave the girl to a family hospital in the city, a place with a reputation only slightly better than a baby farm. She never knew what became of her daughter. She lived her whole life with a ghost child, a missing half of a whole. This recognition of a shared female experience is a powerful, if sorrowful, turning point. Your grief begins to transform from a sharp, isolating pain into a dull, collective ache. You are part of a silent sorority of women whose bodies have been used, whose children have been lost, whose grief has been buried under the weight of economic necessity. This was a Europe-wide phenomenon, from the silk merchants of Florence to the aristocrats of Paris and the gentry of England. The demand for wet nurses created a constant, draining pressure on the poorest communities. It was a system that functioned like a grim harvest, reaping the maternal resources of the countryside to nourish the cities. Historians call this a demographic pump, where the high birth rates of the poor subsidized the low or non-existent breastfeeding rates of the rich. The infant mortality rates in rural communities that heavily supplied wet nurses were often demonstrably higher than in neighboring areas. The village was, in essence, sacrificing its own children for its economic survival. You start to see the signs everywhere. You see the subtle calculations in a father's eyes when a new baby is born into a poor family. You see the middlewoman, a woman like Delora, who passes through the village, her eyes scanning for newly pregnant girls or recent mothers. She is not seen as a villain, but as a broker of opportunity, dosayer of green hope. You realize that this is a collective bargain your whole society has made. The local lord, the village priest, the fathers and husbands, they all, in their own way, sanction this system. It brings desperately needed cash into a subsistence economy. It provides a safety valve for families with too many mouths to feed. They see the silver, the new cow, the repaired roof. They choose not to see the cost, or they justify it as God's will, as the unavoidable harshness of life. Your personal tragedy, you now understand, was not an accident. It was not a simple case of bad luck or a weak child. It was the predictable, logical outcome of a deeply ingrained social and economic structure. You are a cog in a machine, and the machine is designed to produce the things healthy noble heirs and dead peasant babies. Looking at the other women in your village, you feel a new, sorrowful kinship. You are all bound by the same biology, the same poverty, the same impossible choices. Your story is their story, and their story is yours. The knowledge doesn't lessen your pain, but it makes it less lonely. You are no longer a solitary mourner. You are one voice in a vast, silent chorus of grieving mothers, a chorus that has been singing the same sad song for generations. Years pass. The sharp edges of your grief slowly wear down, like a stone in a river, becoming a smooth, heavy weight that you carry with you always. It is a part of you now, as familiar as the calluses on your hands or the silver streaks that begin to appear in your hair. You and your husband have other children, strong, healthy boys and girls who fill the cottage with noise and life. You love them with a fierce, protective passion, but there is always a part of your heart that is walled off, a quiet, sacred space reserved for your firstborn, your lost girl. You never speak of her to them. Her story is too heavy a burden for young shoulders. But sometimes, when you are holding one of your new babies, you find yourself humming the lullaby, the one that became her funeral song. It is your private memorial. The bag of silver coins from the immerses is long gone, transformed into the land you now till. The sturdy roof over your head, and the cow in the pasture. It has become the foundation of your family's security. You live every day with the physical proof of your bargain. When you look at the field that provides your family as bread, you also see the ghost of the child who paid for it. This is the enduring legacy of your time as a wet nurse. Your prosperity is inextricably linked to your greatest sorrow. From time to time, travelers from the city bring news. You hear snippets about the De Rossi family. You learn that Lord De Rossi has grown more powerful, his business interests expanding. You hear that Lady Eleonora is celebrated for her beauty and her lavish parties. And you hear of the heir, the boy you called Piccolino. His name, you learn, is Giovanni. He is growing into a strong, handsome young man, known for his skill with a horse and a sword. He is the pride of his family. When you hear his name, you feel a strange, distant pang of something that is not quite affection, but a kind of phantom limb of a bond. You wonder if he ever thinks about the woman who was the center of his world for the first year of his life. Does he have any memory of you at all? A scent, a sound, a feeling of comfort, or were you completely erased, a temporary vessel, disposed of unforgotten? This question of the long-term psychological impact on the infants is one that historians and psychologists have long pondered. For the child, the sudden and complete disappearance of their primary caregiver at the moment of weaning must have been a profound, if pre-verbal, trauma. Some scholars have argued that this early experience of abandonment and loss could have shaped the emotional development of entire generations of the European aristocracy, perhaps leading to a certain emotional detachment or a difficulty in forming close bonds later in life. It's a compelling, though largely improbable, theory. You, however, need no scholar to tell you that such a separation leaves a scar. You carry your own. Your story, you've come to understand, is part of a much larger historical current. The practice of wet nursing did not begin in your time, and it will not end in your time. It is an ancient tradition, stretching back to Roman times and beyond, and it will continue for centuries more, evolving with social customs but always rooted in the same fundamental inequality. It is a stark illustration of how class is written on the body. A wealthy woman's body is for display and pleasure. A poor woman's body is for labor and utility. You watch as a new generation of girls in your village grows up. You see them fall in love, get married, and have children of their own. And you see the cycle begin anew. You see the desperate look in a young husband's eyes, the arrival of the broker with her promises of city silver, the impossible choice laid at the feet of a new mother. You want to warn them. You want to tell them your story, to explain the true cost of that bag of coins. But what can you say? Would they even listen, or would they see you with your land and your healthy children, and think that you are proof that the gamble is worth it? You are, after all, a success story in their eyes. Your survival obscures your sacrifice. So you stay silent. Your story remains your own, a heavy truth you hold in the quiet of your own heart. The practice of wet nursing is more than just a custom, it's a symptom of a deeply stratified world. A world where one woman's milk is a commodity and another's child is disposable. It is a long, slow-burning tragedy, and its echoes will reverberate through history long after you and Lady Eleonora, and even the boy Giovanni, are older. You are old now. Your hands are gnarled like the roots of an ancient oak, your face a roadmap of a long and difficult life. You have grandchildren, and even a great-grandchild. A tiny girl with your eyes. You sit by the fire, your work done, and watch the endless drama of life unfold in a new generation. The world has changed in countless small ways, yet in many ways it remains the same. One day, a traveling peddler, a young man with a new kind of confidence in his eyes, stops in the village. He sells not just ribbons and pots, but cheap, printed pamphlets and books from the city. He speaks of new ideas, of science and reason, of a world turning towards the light of knowledge. Most of it is a jumble of words that mean little to the villagers, but then he says something that makes you sit up, your old heart giving a sudden, painful lurch. He speaks of a new movement among the thinkers and physicians in the great cities. He talks of a famous philosopher who has written a book that is being read by everyone, even the ladies at court. And this philosopher, this man of great learning, is saying something radical, something that you have known in your bones your entire life. He is saying that it is the sacred, natural duty of a mother, any mother, rich or poor, to breastfeed her own child. The peddler, eager to show off his worldliness, explains the new thinking. They say it is unnatural to separate a mother from her infant. He says, his voice full of the importance of his news, that a mother's love, passed through her own milk, makes a child strong not just in body, but in character. They say a nation of children raised by strangers will be a nation of weak and heartless citizens. He even has one of the pamphlets. It's poorly printed on cheap paper, the ink smudged. You cannot read the words, but you hold it in your trembling hands. It feels like a holy relic, an idea, an argument made physical. A strange, fierce joy rises in you, so potent it brings tears to your eyes. It is vindication. It is a lifetime of silent, private knowledge finally being spoken aloud by men of influence. You were not wrong. Your instincts were not primitive. Your sister's simple, heartfelt words. How could I let a stranger have that? Were a truth more profound than all the De Rossi physicians' arrogant pronouncements. The entire system that took your child was not just cruel, it was, according to these new, modern thinkers, fundamentally wrong, unnatural. But the joy is followed, as it always is, by the shadow of your grief. This news has come too late, a generation too late. This wave of change will not wash away the tiny grave in the churchyard. It will not give you back the year you lost, or the child you never got to know. The world is waking up, but you had to live through the darkest part of the night. The peddler adds a curious detail. He says these new thinkers also believe children shouldn't be swaddled so tightly, that they should be allowed to move their limbs freely. This small, seemingly odd piece of advice was often part of the same package of natural parenting ideas. For you, it's just another painful what if. What if your daughter had been allowed to kick and squirm, instead of being bound in a tight bundle? Historians will forever debate the true engine of this gradual change. Was it really the power of new ideas? The eloquent arguments of philosophers like Rousseau in his book Emile, that persuaded the aristocracy to reclaim the nursery, or was it driven by other, more practical forces? The development of safer, more reliable feeding bottles, a growing medical understanding of sanitation that made alternatives to breast milk less deadly, or shifting economic realities that made the old system less viable? The answer is likely a complex tapestry woven from all these threads. But for you, sitting in the sun with a cheap pamphlet in your hands, the cause is less important than the effect. The world is changing. You look across the village green and see your granddaughter, a young mother herself, holding her own baby. She is poor, yes, but she holds her child to her own breast. No one has come to offer her a bag of silver. The thought, no, seems old-fashioned, a cruel custom from a darker time. You will not live to see the end of the story, to see a world where this choice is no longer a choice at all. But you have lived long enough to see the first, faint trace of a new dawn. You have seen the beginning of the end of the wet nurse's curse. And as you watch your great-granddaughter thrive in the arms of her own mother, you feel a small, fragile, and deeply precious flicker of hope. It is enough. And so, our journey with her comes to a close. Let the story gently fade, like the embers of the fire in her hearth. Let the figure of the old woman, sitting in the quiet sunlight, dissolve into the mists of the past. The weight of her sorrow and the strength of her resilience are just echoes now, murmurs in the long river of time. The stone cottage in the grand manor, the silk cradle and the unmarked grave, can all recede into the soft landscape of your own approaching sleep. You can feel the weight of your own blanket now, a comforting presence. You can hear the steady, quiet hum of the world around you, a lullaby for the here and now. The journey is over. The tale is told. All that is left is this quiet, this peace, this gentle drift into the soft darkness behind your eyes, where your own dreams are waiting to begin. The end of the article. Good night.